Oh my God, it's Friday, Watch Talk. How's everyone doing? We're going to be going through a lot of topics today and covering a whole bunch of stuff. Hopefully, we can get some guests to join us. And yeah, no, I'm just going to go through the usual. I think everybody's kind of seen the MO of this stream that we've done over the past couple of weeks. And yeah, just going to go through, have a nice enjoyable Friday, kind of chatting about different things, different topics, obviously watch related, and just yeah, just going with the flow. We have a couple of people in the chat already. We have Alan French Fry from afternoon. Big Al's watches. Let's have a good show, Big Boy. I think Big Boy will be here a little later, so we'll definitely see the Big Boy. And got our first super chat of the day, €10 from Alan French Fry. Thank you, Alan. No comment, but if you do want to say a comment, I'll definitely pull it up. But yeah, no, I think we're just gonna go with go with the flow today. I have a couple of topics. I think a couple of guests will probably hop on at some point. But yeah, no, we're gonna go through watches, as you guys know, and definitely wherever the chat wants to go, we can definitely go down the rabbit hole. It's Friday afternoon. Let's have a bit of fun. Go down the rabbit hole. I can talk watch prices. I can talk, high horology watches. I can talk a lot of stuff. We got Stefan in the chat. Hey, Stefan, nice Panda Daytona. We got Jin in the chat. I gave Archie my last 100 California dollars last time. I don't think they were California dollars unless you are in Canada. You likely sent in US dollars. I haven't checked, but you are broke as pocus. If you're around a little later, if you want to hop on, feel free to hop on. I think I've sent the link, but I'll just drop the link here as well, just so you have it if you want to hop on. But yeah, no, we're going to be going for a little bit today. I'm just going to give everybody a few minutes to pile in, because when I go live, it takes a few minutes for everyone to get the notification and pile in. And this is usually when Archie goes through the spiel of his monologue. Van Lock's After Me Dead. It's the ArchieLuxury program, yes sir. The ArchieLuxury program without ArchieLuxury. He'll be up probably in say 3 hours. He usually says hello before he goes on to his main show, which is in about 4.5 hours time. But yeah, no, hey, let's. We got a couple people in the chat, so I'm gonna roll an intro here. Not a big fan of his softcore porn intros, so I think I'll go with the classic intro for everybody. I think everyone likes this one, so let's get started. I just don't know why he doesn't use that intro. Like, he has to go to that softcore porn one where it's like doesn't even take over the full screen. It's just like it covers like his face. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. See what he likes in that intro that he runs. This is my favorite intro, so I always run it when I run the stream. But yeah, like let's if there's any guests who want to join, I've dropped the link. I'll drop it again here for you guys. And if not, I'll kind of get into a couple of topics. First topic is Hodinkee kind of released an article around their predictions of 2023 and what's going to happen, and a couple of interesting ones. I wanted to see what the chat thinks about of these. Rolex will continue its utilization of titanium. So for everybody that's in the know, they went with the deep sea challenge in titanium. I don't believe it was the first watch they did in titanium. I think that they did another one, but it might not have been available to the public. But first commercially released watch in titanium. And Hodinkee is predicting that they may continue going with titanium in another piece, or maybe in their current lineup. Mr. Zoso says because he's lame 10. Yeah, I don't know. Moving Archie and convincing him to change is like moving universal like objects like the fucking sun. Like astronomical objects. It's not going to happen. So, Mark P says, love the 5212A. Had to buy mine on the gray market, but well worth it. Mark P, you're lucky. I've been on the hunt for a 5212. I talked to Marco Ferrante yesterday. It's a bit difficult for me to get a 5212 right now in Canada. We're a small market. The collectors in Canada don't seem to want to give one up. There is a punter in the chat that you guys are well aware of that I've been trying to get to sell one to me. But yeah, just importing it from the US here, we get hit with like 18% taxes and duties importing a watch to Canada. So it prices out a piece that's like, it's a Calatrava trading at retail. Like, am I really going to overspend on it? Probably not, right? So got Booty Pirate who says, hey boys, Meatball 10, get the guy that produced the intro. He is cool and fun. Yeah, I wish I could to get him to give us a proper intro, not just some softcore porn from the 60s. And probably not even good, TV from the 60s is probably like fucking some random Australian show. I don't know what the hell he pulls from that or where he got that from. Big Boy definitely has his own field of gravity. Yes, Jin, he definitely does. So yeah, kind of looking at titanium. So Bodinky is predicting that Rolex may continue to use the titanium. They have a specific photo here. Now it is the 60th anniversary of the Daytona, and they're kind of, I think they're just, maybe trying to rile up a bit of interest here to talk about maybe a Daytona in titanium, which it doesn't look bad. This watch came out maybe 2016-ish. So it is definitely, 7 years-ish old. So I don't know if they would update the wildly successful steel ceramic Daytona, but this is what they're predicting. It's definitely, I think the shock factor of it is going to be there. Loose 2 says, would a titanium Milgauss be in the works as a technical evolution of the scientist watch? Yeah, you know what? That is a range. I kind of had this topic a few shows ago where I kind of asked about kind of the purpose of certain pieces or the relevance of certain pieces today, the relevance of the Yachtmaster. Now they've updated it. They put it on the Oyster Flex, make it a little bit more sexy. The Milgauss from a technological perspective is obviously a bit behind the times and, comparative to, for example, the Omega Metas movements. So yeah, you know what? If they put it in titanium and they spruced it up a bit and made it look a bit like the old one, which I'll pull up here. Here in a second. My computer decides to agree with me. Let me pull up, I think it's a 6541 Rolex is the Milgauss. Let me just pull up the photo of the OG classic Milgauss right here. If they use a similar design or design something like maybe making a ceramic bezel, something maybe similar to this. And this is what we've been kind of just talking about is, could they use a design from the past, potentially a new metal, like titanium today to, I think that may be the watch that they would consider titanium for. We've got Jason M., a fellow Californian with $15 Californian. Fike me dead, gin and tan on the live stream. Feels like 2018 all over again. Yeah, Jason, it's obviously good to hear from you on Instagram. We do talk often enough. But yeah, no, Jin's been back. He's been doing some live streams. I think it's whenever he can actually make it. He's a busy guy, obviously these days. But he hops on when he can. And whenever I have some free time, I'll do like my own live stream where I kind of just talk about watches, because on the main show there's a bit of everything. There's a lot of drama, as you guys have seen the past couple of days. There's a lot of watch talk, as you saw yesterday. So I try to do my own thing with my own show, and I've obviously got Archie's blessing and Bear's blessing and everybody else to just spend some time going through watch topics, really engage with the chat, talk about watches with the chat on whatever they want to kind of go to. I pick a theme and then we kind of just go from there. So that's kind of the first rumor, is the titanium, the use of titanium. I don't disagree. I think it's very possible that they'll use titanium in at least one of their watches moving forward. I just don't know which one it would be. And hey, the Milgauss is maybe the one to use it on. The next rumor is Tudor will play the hits. I don't think this is surprising to anybody. Will Tudor continue to do what it's doing, updating lineups, really meeting the needs of the market and what the market, wants. Like the Pelagos 39, very wildly successful. We got the Tudor Black Bay Pro, which is an homage to the Steve McQueen original Explorer 2. So they're basically kind of say Tudor is just going to kind of go steady as she goes. They do talk about potentially updating a couple of the not so popular models, including the Royal. I'm going to put up Tudor's website here to show you guys the Royal. Is not really a fan on my side of the Royal. Let me see if I can find it here. I'm just going to share my tab on the Tudor site. We got a bunch of black bays we're going through. Scroll through black bays. Oh my God, black bay. They're like AP, man. It's like scrolling through. If you're going to AP's website, it's like scrolling through. See if there's a better way to get through this. Let's go to classic watches. It's probably in the classic watches is where I'm going to find it. Yep. Here we go. So we've got the style, the 1926. These are two watches that they said Tudor may update. The style particularly, I think they're talking about how Tudor hasn't really taken advantage of a Datejust-esque type of a piece. And so, Hodinkee saying that Tudor may update this piece to be a little bit more, capture that market for Datejust. Is that the right thing? I don't know. I think that Datejusts they're iconic with Rolex, and Tudor did do their own version of the Datejust in the past. But in today's market, with hype watches, sport watches being very, very driving a lot of the market, on the sports side, I can't really see it being a huge commercial success on a Datejust specific variant. But yeah, like these are really unpopular groups here between the style. I'll go back to the classic pieces here. Classic watches between the 1926, the style. I'll pull up the 1926. This is your Tudor dress watch. Obviously, probably a women's size, 28 millimeters here. So, I don't. That's what Hodinkee's predicting. Is they're going to update this? Is it the right move? I don't know. What was I looking for here? Not style. I was looking for Tudor Royal, which is the one that looks similar to the Royal Oak. Very interesting that they're using that terminology. 41 millimeters. This is a two-tone, diamond set dial on this one. I'll just go to the Tudor Royal section here. They're talking about how they're going to likely update this one most likely to be a little bit more popular. Again, I don't really see. Yeah, I don't know. I can't see really a market for this, at least not from Tudor. And everybody. I think in the last couple of years, the integrated bracelet has been a big phase with the popularity of the Royal Oak really taking off, and got their overseas Gen 3 and other pieces out there. Arguably from other houses that aren't really talked about as often. But again, I don't really see this being a huge win for Tudor if they update this one or the 1926 or the style lineup, as Hodinkee is saying they're going to do. I think they're going to continue to play more of the hits. New York Strike Back says White Ranger, perhaps. Yeah, like look, I think the Ranger, on their side, when they picked they updated the Ranger, or they got the new Ranger is like this definitely I think has a market. Explorer 1 fans, out there are definitely going to attune to this 39 millimeter case. A white dial Ranger, that'd be cool to see. I just think them and their other really obscure stuff. Nah, like I think their biggest win would probably be a Tudor Diet Pepsi 58, right? Just a lot of people don't like the thickness of that watch. They'd probably prefer a thinner GMT. So, probably an area I think that they would go down, as opposed to like Hodinkee saying maybe bigger changes to the Tudor Royal or style, which they even arguably say are not of which are current collector favorites. I don't know. The MoonSwatch will lead to Moon something else. So I think the popularity of the MoonSwatch is, look, the Swiss watch industry is very interesting. It's funny when you have a hit like a Royal Oak, or you have a hit like a Black Bay, it's just bad sequel after bad sequel after bad sequel. as we come up. And I think that, yes, I believe that the MoonSwatch will continue. They may add new variants to the MoonSwatch. There's obviously rumors around a 007 edition MoonSwatch. There's rumors around Snoopy MoonSwatch. Hey, if there's a Snoopy MoonSwatch, I think that would just, take off. Drill Phil Bill, how's it going? Thanks for joining us. Jen says the Tudor Day Date was always popular in Asia. I found that actually pretty interesting, that it is or was popular in Asia. Look, good bang per buck. Those watches were definitely always pretty decent bang per buck. But with brand consciousness these days being paramount, I think in a lot of non-collectors, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that would be a commercial success today, but maybe it is. Pepsi 39 millimeter, but same thickness. Yeah, it some people just don't like the size. Some people don't like the thickness. It's really, I think that they just need to revamp the Pepsi for it to be a little bit more successful than it is today. When it first came out, it was there was just a lot of hype around that watch. I remember when the Tudor Pepsi came out, and then it had an issue. I believe it was with the date. No, I don't quite remember, but there was an issue with the movement, which put a bit of a stain on the watch. And after that, obviously the complaints came out about the thickness or the size or what have you. Yeah, New York Strikes Back. I know you're talking about the Tudor Pepsi. MoonSwatch specifically, so look, Hodinkee is not saying that there's going to be another massive, massive movement on. We're not really going to see another huge amount of lineups outside of ADs or whatever, or Swatch ADs. They don't believe that there's going to be another huge event like that. I think they're thinking that they're going to take the MoonSwatch's success and potentially just add to it. And I think that is probably something that probably would happen. Is they will maybe make new variants. They've arguably, from what I've heard, rumors, they've discontinued the Neptune. Maybe they're going to come out with another one that's a similar color. Who knows? Al29, how's it going? Thanks for joining us. And Jen says Snoopy Moonwatch would be incredible, but stupidly hard to get. Yeah, absolutely, it would be ridiculous to get. Trying to get a Snoopy these days itself is ridiculous to get, let alone if it's a MoonSwatch and you're adding non-collectors to the mix. But hey, non-collectors may not care about it. Interesting story. So not about the MoonSwatch. It was another watch called the Damien Hirst Mirror Spot Mickey or Spot Mickey. It was a swatch that was released probably 4 years ago, and Jin was very excited for it, because I think he's a Damien Hirst fan, and I think him and I were live streaming that night, and he was telling me about he was gonna get it. So I stayed up to actually get it, and I ended up buying it, both the Mirror Spot and the Spot Mickey. And it was interesting because at the time you had not just watch collectors seeking the piece, but you also had art collectors who wanted it because of Damien Hirst being a very famous artist. Long story short, I think Jin drank a little too much and fell asleep, and did not get the Spot Mickey. But many months later, I gifted it to him because I knew that he would definitely wear it a lot more than I would. So he is the owner of a Damien Hirst Spot Mickey. New York Strike Back says Tudor OP 39. Yeah, you never know with Tudor, right? Like, I'll give them props in terms of branching out a bit past the Black Bay. With the Pelagos 39, good choice. The Ranger. I remember when the North Flag first came out, and that was their first. That was her first or modern iteration chronometer grade in-house piece. And it wasn't even that popular. Like, I don't think anybody really cared that much. It was a big thing for Tudor at the time. I'll pull up a North Flag for you guys. But years ago when this watch came out, this was the big thing. Chronometer officially certified, in-house movement from Tudor. I don't know. And everyone talked about, hey, this is going to be for Explorer fans and what have you. Design of this piece, not really my cup of tea. And I didn't see this obviously being very successful. Yes, that is a story of everything bad in my life passing after drinking. Look, you're lucky you have friends like me, Jen, who stayed up, who got the piece, and who gifted it to you. I think Jen ended up buying the dinner that night. you know, to say thanks. But why did Rolex move away from 39 millimeter? Explorer 1, 39 millimeter, and OP 39 millimeter gone. It's a good question. New York Strikes Back. I own the 39 millimeter Explorer, and I believe I had a Mark II dial. I did not have the T-Rex hands. I had the other one, and it was weird, man. Like when I put on that watch, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, hey, 39 millimeter is close to 40 millimeter. It's gonna fit like my sub. It's gonna, you know, fit like my GMT. It's gonna be great. When I had that watch on the wrist, honestly, it just there was just something about the fit that was just off. It really was, and I can remember when I met with Doc BBW. We Jin had the 36 millimeter. Um, he had the 36 millimeter Explorer, and it looked a lot more proportional than the 39, in my opinion. And yeah, I really don't know why that is. I just think, you know, whenever I had mine, it never really sang to me. It just seemed a little just off in terms of the dimensions of the piece. And look, that is, to be honest, in New York Strikes Back sometimes even why Rolex makes changes. Think about the Supercase 40 millimeter Submariner, right? When that was modern, I used to love that piece. I used to love the size of the 40 millimeter Supercase Submariner, and there was just a huge faction that hated the dimensions of it. They just were like, no, it's way off. And then when you saw the Rolex when they updated to the 41, they, you know, they slimmed the lugs. They made the, you know, they just made it, I guess, visually and the way it wears, a little bit better than when it was. Um, they did the same thing with the Datejust 2. When the Datejust 2 came out, you know, it was a 41 millimeter piece, and it was funny because they ended up coming out with the Datejust 41, and I remember thinking, like, when the Datejust 2 got discontinued, I was like, man, like, you're discontinuing a piece for the same size. Like, the 41 to a 41, like, what the hell's the difference? But there is a difference, and it is definitely the proportions of the way it wears. So, you know, I think maybe that was the case. Maybe it just wasn't very popular. 36 millimeters is the classic size on the Explorer. Um, and either people are requesting a larger size like the OPs, or people are, you know, they re-released or they have a release of the 36 millimeter Explorer as well. So maybe just the dimensions of that piece would have changed and gotten a bit better. So, you know, that's my take on what it is. I think I read that one already. Booty Pirate says Tudor is a very nice watch, but it ain't no Rolly. Yeah, I don't think that's ever in dispute, Booty Pirate. I think that you know, I think that the Rolex and the Tudors definitely have different. They have different target markets. They have different. You know, they have different groups that they target, and different uses and purposes. Like I have a Tudor Black Bay 58 Blue on a strap, and honestly, I use that, you know, day to day, just getting around, getting groceries. It's not something I'd probably be wearing my Royal Oak to do. You know, and look, it's an accurate watch. It's a nice looking watch, and it's something I can use as a beater. Whereas maybe my GMT Pepsi, which I do wear pretty often for work and other things, you know, I probably wear the Tudor for other purposes. So, like, I don't think that needs to be explained to watch collectors, but it ain't no Rolly. We all know that. Rolex obviously is a step above in terms of quality, in terms of, you know, the brand itself, the awareness of the brand recognition, and, you know, obviously overall, just an overall better package. Going back to the Hodinkee article, because there isn't any other comments for me to kind of go down the rabbit hole with. So MoonSwatch, I do believe that they're going to continue the MoonSwatch and what have you. This is an interesting one. The Holy Trinity refocuses on steel, and they're pulling up a Vacheron Constantin 222, which is a watch that came out only in gold so far. And basically Hodinkee is saying that they believe that the Trinity is going to refocus on steel. So that in and of itself is an interesting concept. I'm trying to, you know, I'm trying to find the comment here from Thierry Stern, if I can find it, just related around steel watches. And you know, maybe I'll share here. I found it here. So um, so I'll read I'll read kind of the comment from Thierry Stern from Patek Philippe around the steel pieces. Before I get to that, I'll get these super chats. Vintinier 499, thanks Jen. Better pink 39 millimeter watch, OP candy pink or pink dial. Ooh, this is a good one. Pink dial 116234 date just. Let me put 116234 date just pink. Holy fuck. This is definitely, you know, this is this is definitely a watch I think you'd wear, Jen. Um, I'm gonna go with the Oyster Perpetual. At least the Oyster, but you think is the Rolex OP pink. This is your candy pink. I'm gonna go with the candy pink here. I think this is I think to me this is much nicer. So if you're gonna go with one of those two, go with the Oyster Perpetual candy pink. You know, that's just yeah. That they just I don't know, man. Maybe your style, definitely not for me. You got Booty Pirate, $2. Tudor North Flag, which I own, is unique piece. You know what it is, Booty Pirate. You're not really seeing a ton of North Flags out there. And look, when it came out, it was for Tudor. They were very proud of the fact that they had a chronometer grade movement, which prior to that, I mean, you had you had other pieces that Tudor wasn't really caring about their own chronometer grade in-house movement. They were, you know, using Bosch movements in the past, generally speaking, ETA movements in the past. The original Black Bays that came out were in ETA, the old Smileys that you would see. But the Tudor North Flag coming out with their own in-house movement. And again, different time too, when in-house was all the rage. You had to have in-house, and then obviously Tudor had to have an in-house movement. 1105, my fellow Californian brothers saying hello, hello, hello. Meatball says it's a great piece part. Absolutely. Big Guns, how you doing? Hey fellas, just dropping in to say a quick hello. We got Al29. As a watch collector, last time I was late for something was around 2012 because I misread my Merc schedule. What is it worth me in money and security? A lot. There you go. So we got New York Strikes Back says Grand Seiko SPGA 429. Let's look at SPGA 429. Don't have anybody helping me today, so I'll be doing it myself. Grand Seiko SPGA, sorry, 429. SPGA 429. Let's have what's 5,000 US dollars. US dollars is a 39. Now, I'd say it's a New York Strikes Back. It's not that the 39 millimeter is not a good size. There's a lot of great size 39 millimeter watches out there. But I think that 39 millimeter piece to me just did not fit that great. You know, I've had a 39 millimeter AP Royal Oak 15300. Amazing, you know, watch. Obviously a watch that probably wore bigger than a 39, wore more like a 41. But there's a lot of 39 millimeter watches out there that are just picture perfect. So I wouldn't say the 39 millimeter size itself is wrong. I think maybe the proportions of that Explorer was wrong. Big Guns 299 super sticker. Thank you so much, Big Guns. So back to the topic of Patek of the Trinity going to steel. So I'm going to share this comment from Thierry Stern, and hey, I'll drop the link in the chat here if anybody wants to join. So I don't have to do a ton of work on my own, but basically, you know, they asked Thierry Stern around, you know, the hype around the Nautilus and all the steel and whether he would pivot to steel and he'd make more money if he went to steel. So I'll read his response to you guys. Tomorrow, if I decide suddenly to produce 40,000 watches in steel, it's over. You can go out of the store. You will not be able to sell it for this price anymore. He says it is a dangerous matter. This is something we need to be very careful about. Many years ago, IWC was producing gold watches. Then they had problems, and they had fabricated everything in steel. They tried to come back to gold, and they could never do it. Once you lower the price with steel, it is very hard to come back. So I don't want this with Patek. That's why I took the decision many years ago to say, let's limit it. I'm limiting the steel versions, mostly the Nautilus. That's really the one that everyone's looking for. Why is it so expensive? It's simply because there are just so few of them. At our level, steel has always been very rare, so this is true. Patek, I talked about this yesterday on the main show with Archie, with someone asked about the 565 in steel. Generally speaking, they don't make a lot of steel watches. Today, I have to be very tough on the quantity because I don't want to see steel taking over the lead in the whole collection in terms of material. So we have to be vigilant. So look, going back to Hodinky's comment here around steel, Thierry Stern himself used IWC in that example when asked about the Nautilus was, hey, why don't you just start producing steel watches? You'll be wildly successful. And he knows that. He knows he could. But he knows that where his vision or where his family's vision for the brand is to still make precious metal pieces. And he feels that if he just does that, he's going to become AP. Really with, a steel, Royal Oak being the flagship, and not, it's going to lose the whole mystique and really the whole drive of the business to go into this precious metal group. I'll get some of these super chats before I move on. Trooper 249 euros. Thank you, Trooper. Datejust 116200 white oyster drip or skip 116200 Rolex 116200. You said white dial. Is there anything else on this? Is it white dial, oyster, drip, or skip? Drip or skip's a good one. That's it's from, I think that was from a sneaker show. Let's have a look. 116200. There's a couple of these actually. They're obviously in different. Trooper, I don't know if you have a specific one, but I'll pull up a white Romans. Look. I'm a pretty big fan of Romans. I have a Datejust 2 blue dial Romans like this. I don't really see a problem with this piece. I'm a pretty big fan of the Datejust. If you like this piece, obviously it's not hyped. We all know that. We're not going to get into it being hyped or whatever. Roulette dial. Okay, there's a roulette dial here. Roulette. I think this is the roulette. With the red, the roulette date. Yep, this is the one. To me, Trooper, this is a drip. Just because you picked this one with the roulette date, it is a drip. So I would say definitely drip. Definitely pick this up. Do not skip this. This is cool because, like you said, like you see here, right? Like you got a red date versus your standard black date here. So yeah, definitely a drip for me. I think this is cool. I don't know if anybody in the chat thinks otherwise, but for me, definitely cool. Definitely something I'd pick up. Kale Venator asks, where's Archie? He is sleeping. He'll be up in a couple of hours, and we'll be doing the main show in 4 hours. I don't know if you've ever tuned in, but I do a show every once in a while for the European group, European fans, Irish fans, UK fans, just to really cater to their time zones, their market. As well, because I know it gets a little late in Europe for everybody else. Big Gun says, Watchbox has a recent video of a beautiful cognac dial date that Saad would love. Yeah, so Saad, if you're watching and if you're on the chat, then just let me know, and we can chat dates if you like. I know that's a very, very popular topic for those that watch the stream, but yeah, so. Moving back to the Hodinky article. So Holy Trinity refocuses on steel. So do I think Vacheron will do the 222 in steel? I think they will. I think Vacheron needs a bit of a boost. The 222 is pretty unobtainium for most folks. Quite expensive. I'll actually pull this up here. Vacheron, Constantin, 222. See if I can pull up the pull up the direct website. $69,000 US in gold. It is it's considered a continuation piece of the original 222, 37 millimeters. Probably this is 84,500. That might be Canadian dollars. Yeah, it's picking up Canadian dollars. A true icon of the 70s, 37 millimeter jumbo 222, contemporary, what they call reissue of the historic model. Thickness 7.95 millimeters, so not a very chunky watch. 37 millimeters. I think that these guys will definitely. I think they'll definitely pull up this piece into a steel version. I believe they had it in a steel version in the past. There's really no reason, right? Like, why not capitalize on something that collectors want? They can't get the gold. Why not get them in steel? Obviously, it's going to be very difficult to get it in steel, but you know, it probably could build a bit of hype for the brand. You know, the Overseas Gen 3, you know, there's interest in that piece. I wouldn't say it's as popular as the Aquanaut or the Nautilus or the Royal Oak in terms of its desirability, but definitely not undesirable. Memavox asks, where's Rudy Dobson? Vintinier banned Rudy Dobson many years ago, but if Rudy Dobson's listening and wants to join in, I'm definitely game to have a chat. Vintinier says 222 is amazing. This is a Concord watch, not a landlord watch, but a Concord watch. So yeah, I do believe that the 222 could go in steel. This is kind of what they've shown of a historical 222 in steel. This is the interesting one. Is there Hodinkie's talking about potentially the resurgence of the Nautilus as a 41 millimeter steel piece, and I don't really know. Like they'd have to, in my opinion, they'd probably discontinue the 5811 at that point. You know, to bring out a 6711 or a 6811 in steel, 41 millimeters. I believe that it's a tough one. I mean, Terry Stern did make the call to discontinue it. He made the call to reintroduce the blue dial into a precious metal, capitalize really on that, you know, that market that's paying over $100,000 for a steel piece, for this piece. And I believe Marco Ferrante had mentioned that these are actually sinking, the 5811s. I'm trying to see if I can find a Patek 5811 Luxury Bazaar. I think that they had one a little while back, but it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't $200,000-$300,000. Like it was decent. Chris with Kansas City Chiefs says 5811 feels great on the wrist, considerable upgrade in the bracelet. Yeah, look, I mean, a precious metal Patek, that would be my expectation. The price point you're paying for this watch, you're not paying for a $30,000 steel watch. You're paying for a precious metal piece, 5811. So I don't doubt that it's a quality piece. The question really is Patek going to go back on this? Are they going to go with a steel Nautilus, a 6711 or 6811 in steel with a 41 millimeter size? Hodinkee thinks they will. Look, and that's why I pulled up Terry Stern's statement around steel was around, hey, are we going to, he says, look, we don't build a lot of steel pieces and I'm limiting the Nautilus. So if he does come out with this, it may not be a blue dial. It may be, you know, a limited other color dial. It may, you know, he may not make a lot of them. I don't truly believe he's going to make any more in steel. You know, but you know, a lot of people would prove me wrong and say I'd probably be wrong on that because they got to be crazy not to do a Nautilus in steel, but maybe not a base Nautilus in steel. The Aquanaut itself probably needs updating. That piece is, I think it's getting a little dated. I think that maybe a next gen steel piece for Patek could be the Aquanaut, and then continuing the Aquanaut in steel. Obviously not as hyped as the 5711 or the Nautilus. But yeah, like to me, I would probably see them continuing the Aquanaut in steel. I do believe that there's a case to say that they won't continue the Nautilus in steel. However, Hodinkee thinks that they're going to with a 41 millimeter. This will be the year of the blue dial. This is interesting. I mean, I thought the year of the blue dial was a few years back. Like, you know, then it became the year of the green dial, and who knows, right? Like blue dials are popular. I think they've always been somewhat popular. I don't think blue dials have ever really gone out of style. I think that's a bit of the marketing in the market that says, oh, green is all the fad now. And you see a ton of green watches out there. You know, and I've shown a ton of green watches on the show that are popular. Chris asks, what is everyone wearing? I'll show you what I'm wearing. I'm wearing the AP Royal Oak 15500. Haven't we had a decade plus of blue dials? Yeah, exactly, Chris. It's like what are you thinking here? Like, of course, the blue dials have been popular forever. Like I wouldn't call this the year of the blue dial. It's a very popular dial color no matter what. So yeah, I think they just have this off. I don't think it's the year of any dial. I think, yes, there has been some popularity on green dials. And I can remember times when the Hulk wasn't popular. You know, people just, they're like, green, like, what am I going to wear with green? And, you know, it wasn't as hyped. I mean, I bought my Hulk for sub 9,000 US. This might have been like 2014, something like that, I think. And it wasn't always popular. It's popular now. And look, that dial on the Hulk is amazing. The sunburst screen, the gold elements to it, like beautiful, stunning dial. I actually really fell in love with the Hulk when I first saw it, in the wild on the wrist um, of folks that were out there. But yeah, I think from pictures from back in the day wasn't very interesting to me. But as it got more popular, and I think now these days is everyone wants the Hulk because everybody wants the Hulk. The hype is real. The group think is real. I use that term a lot on my streams, is group think, whether that's on YouTube or on the forums. There's just a lot of group think. You got new collectors walking in that, um, they're trying to learn about watches, just like I did, back in the late 2000s when I was first starting and looking at Rolex forums and other things. You ask the question, hey, what watch should I buy, or this or that kind of a thing. So, and these days it's like, well, get a Cermet, get a Pepsi, get a Daytona. Even on the show, you'll hear that from certain, personalities that come on the panel. It's so predictable what they'll say. Archie used to be very predictable in what he said. Oh, get a Speedmaster Man on the Moon, get an Explorer 2, get a Reverso. Like you could almost to a T, predict what he was going to say. And just the huge amount of groupthink when it comes to the hype pieces. To me, it really kind of bores a collector that's either owned those hype pieces in the past or is just kind of like, hey man, let's go beyond the 24 watches that you're going to talk about. Peter K says maybe the Patek Philippe Neptune on a bracelet will make a return, hopefully with a new 40mm size. For everybody who doesn't know what a Neptune is, I'm going to show you guys a Neptune. Very interesting piece. Had a bracelet. It was on a bracelet, and show you kind of what it looks like. Yeah, I mean, this is an older Neptune. I'll show the 5085. It's a more modern Neptune. You'll probably, so this is the 5085 Neptune. Patek bracelets aren't, they're not always the favorites out there. But they could probably revamp the Neptune and bring it out into a modern size, into something that's a bit more modern for collectors. There's a lot of stuff that they can do here, on this between, they have a power reserve, they have a date, they have moon phase, they have, off center small seconds. Very, very cool piece. It does have complications in it. And this one has crown guards on the piece, which is also quite interesting. So yeah, look, if they came up with a Neptune and they really rejuvenated the line, yeah, that would be cool. I think that would be interesting. I'm into interesting pieces. I'm into stuff that's off the beaten path, something that's just beyond, beyond the pale, I'll say. We got Mark P here, a UK fan. Thank you, Mark P. £4, 49 pence. Hi, Tan. Honest thoughts on a Patek 5524 on a blue strap. No rush for an answer. Keep things up. No, we'll stop. I'm just like, I guess for me, it's, I want to interact with the chat, and when the chat's kind of slow, I'll go back to my topics. Patek 5524 on a blue strap. Okay, so I know this watch. We've talked about this piece. We've talked about this piece a lot actually over the past couple of days. It's a Patek that is quite popular. See if I can find it on a blue strap. Let's see here. It's not really a blue strap. Okay, here's a blue strap. Here's a 5524 beside a 7234 right here. So this is your travel time. This is your travel time with a pilot's watch style piece in white gold. This to me, like the blue on the blue, it actually reminds me a lot of. We got our HR director here, Pawe, who wants to say a statement. That was a public service announcement from the BBC. All right, I'll put myself off full screen. Look, I think of the blue strap. It's funny because I bought my Tudor Black Bay with the blue dial and the blue strap, and I just love the color combo. I think the white gold here looks stunning. This to me is an absolutely cool piece. Definitely something that you can. It's not your typical Patek. It's something you can wear dressed down. It's not your special occasion Patek that you're going to a wedding with. Like, this is something you can wear on a more frequent basis. I think this is stunning. I think this is a great combo, and I would probably go with the blue strap. I'm not saying the brown strap on the right's bad by any means, but I think the blue strap really shines and really makes it look pretty consistent. So we got our favorite German watch collector in the chat, Jonathan Quill Higgins the third. Hello and good evening to everyone. Hey, Jonathan. Vincent, don't you think the 222 is overpriced? Look, overpriced is subjective, Jonathan, to a lot of folks. I think that they're just trying to capture. I mean, they're coming out. It's a pretty interesting thing for them to do, to reissue a piece that was the predecessor to the Overseas, and they're tapping into the whole using the design from the past, but actually designing it like it was in the past. Overpriced. Look, it's very sought after. It's the prices are staying. Is it going to stay that way forever? I don't think so. And I do think that they may come out with steel because they're just going to try to milk the market. Mark P from Chris, I own the 5524G and it is a great either on a brown or blue strap. Yeah, like I said, you can't really go wrong. Both look great. I like a bit of the contrast on the brown, but the blue looks pretty sweet. Chili Badger says, welcome to the Watch Zone. Peter K says, love that 5524G. Hello, Chili. And given Patek has very little aviation watch history, that is true. They don't have a ton of it. I think that they were looking to build a modern piece that I think that they struggle because they are mainly a dress watch manufacturer. Hey, Swing Kangaroo, nice to see you. They are a dress watch manufacturer. So it's funny because I have friends that are new to collecting and they know I'm a big Patek fan. And they kind of ask me like, why are you so into these grandpa watches? Why are you so into these dress watches? Why do you like this brand? It's just, maybe the Nautilus, maybe the Aquanaut, but everything else is just trash. And I think Patek itself I think they understand that. And, a piece that we've talked about, on the main show a few days ago and even yesterday, was the 5226, which is a modern interpretation of the Calatrava. And I'll show it on this strap. Like, does this look like your typical dress watch to most people? Probably not, right? It's not hobnail bezel. It's a pretty decent size. It's got a unique dial. The syringe hands are definitely a little classical in that, but as a package, if I looked at this, I don't see this as a outdated dress piece. So they're trying to update their lineup. I think they're trying to update. They're trying to update and make it a little bit more youthful. And I think the question was asked a few days ago around what do I think is the best iteration of the Calatrava for the young man, and the question was between this and the 5227, which I'll show here in a second. So yeah, that's the 5226, and let's do a 5227 rose gold. And someone asked me like, what do you think is more youthful? And I think between the two, it's a pretty easy answer. I think this is a lot more traditional. I think a younger man will probably wear a 5226 over this, assuming they like the dial. The dial may be a little bit of a love-hate between the two, but I think the 5226 is the one. I don't know if there's anything else in the chat. Yeah, we do have Mark P says absolutely now think of the 5524G. Yeah, I think Mark P, you're going to have a lot of people. I think you're going to have a lot of support on that piece. I think you picked the right combo of strap and dial. So that's cool. I have dropped the link for anybody who does want to join. If you guys wanted to join in on the chat, I know obviously Poway hopped on to say some nice words, but I'll continue on the view of what Hodiaki thinks is going to happen, and this was the whole piece on the year of the blue dial. I don't know. I don't think that blue dials have ever gone out of style. Omega will address the bracelet on the Seamaster 300. Now this had been like the bane of my existence. I hate the bracelet of the Seamaster 300. I just think it's so like outdated, and I know why they keep it going, right? It's definitely it is it's keeping to the tradition of this bracelet and that 90s style. But man, I can't stand this bracelet. I really can't. I can't stand this bracelet at all. It does no taper, and they revamped the 3861 bracelet on the Moonwatch, and they tapered it. And I didn't like the 1861 movement either, so it was just not my thing. You can let yourself on because how's it going?
How are you?
Doing some watch talk.
I came over here to keep you company a little bit.
Thank you.
So you got learn a little something.
Learn a little something. So we're going through. Hodinkee is giving some predictions of what's going to happen in 2023. And this Seamaster, if you see the bracelet, it doesn't taper. And got super chat here from Dodger. I know this is Polish currency. I don't know the name of the currency, but 10 Polish currency whatevers. Enjoying your watch talk shows. Thank you, Dodger.
Thank you, Dodger. Hello, Mrs. Dodger. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
I think it's evening over there. I think it's probably like close to 8:30, maybe later in Poland.
Shout out to Jonathan. I see Jonathan's there.
There's state corrections issued ankle bracelets more luxurious than the Seamaster bracelet. Yes, Chris, that is true. Chili Bad says, now we are talking. That fucking bracelet is stuck in my wrist. Both pushers locked. Had to use a screwdriver. Jesus Christ. Like, this bracelet currently has been in existence. And obviously it's been, there's some updates to it, but the style of the bracelet has been roughly the same since the 90s when GoldenEye came out. And, the whole Omega phase of Bond was there in the Bond Seamaster. And it just, man, this bracelet is just so outdated. They really need to update it. They've made a glide lock-esque type of an extension you can do in it, in the clasp, but I don't know, man. I fucking hate this bracelet. I really do hope they update it.
It's got too much of a generic look. I mean, I got some shitter Harley Davidson watches, and the bracelets are similar to what that looks like right there. That's a shame.
Roger says, I have the Seamaster. I put it on a NATO much better. Yeah, that's the way to go is change the bracelet. I just think that if you're spending, the extra money for the bracelet version of the Seamaster Professional 300, you want a quality bracelet. I felt the same way about the Speedmaster 1861 that had a bracelet that just wasn't that great. And then when they came out with the 1861, I was extremely happy. Tapered bracelet. I like the clasp. I know some people hate that bracelet, but to me, I like it. So yeah, they think they're going to update the bracelet. I really hope they do. Because Omega needs to really update that. You can see the chat's kind of thoughts of it. We'll begin to retire the term micro brand. I don't know about this. So we've always got some new micro brand that comes out every year, and just I can't even keep up currently. I don't keep up. I don't try to keep up. Not the big. I mean, micro brands for me are not really where I necessarily look for my purchases. I usually, as people know, I buy purchases from brands like Rolex and Omega, and not just those, but high horology between AP and Patek and stuff like that. So not really, if I'm thinking of micro brands, I'm really talking about the smaller brands that are coming out with new designs, but using Miyota movements, Felita movements, even Chinese movements.
Do they ever micro brands ever do Kickstarter projects?
They do. They often do. And, I even have a friend that's built his own micro brand, but his is a bit different, where he put up a lot of his own money to do it. But yeah, there are micro brands that do Kickstarters, and they come up with a design or a prototype, and then, that's how they fund the release of the product. And look, hey, if you believe in the dream of a certain brand, or, you're friends with them, the reality is everyone's got to start somewhere. Not everyone's going to have millions of dollars to start a company. So I don't have any disrespect. I have a lot of respect for people that and entrepreneurs that want to follow their dreams. And like I said, I have a friend who has his own micro brand in Singapore. But hey, look, for me as a consumer, I'm not a big consumer of micro brands, and we'll begin to retire the term micro brand. I don't think that's going to get retired. I think micro brands are going to exist no matter what. And I don't think the term is going to really retire. Drop the link for TW. Hey, I posted the link 50 times. If TW wants to duke it out with Curly, he can duke it out with Curly. But JB, good to see you.
We're doing watches. This is watch talk. We don't need drama talk.
No drama talk. We'll talk watches.
Did you did you happen to get? I don't think Jonathan would have. I don't think Jonathan would have objected. But did you get the WhatsApp? The two WhatsApp. I don't know how to send it to you on so you could put it on the screen. But I sent it in WhatsApp. Jonathan happened to. He's on vacation, and I would imagine that he's going to pick up the watch, the bespoke watch that he had built. I don't know what the name of it is. I forget. But I sent you 2 pics of the finished product.
Yeah, I got one of them up on the screen here. Let me just zoom in here. So he did show this. He did show this, and you can see here, New York has been corrected from New York, which was what he showed last time to me, was New York, because they'd fucked up the N. Looks like our boy has been deleted.
Darwin.
We got Bangkok, we got Honkers, we got Tokyo, and then we got Sydney. There's no more Darwin over here. So unfortunately, Mr. GMT, if you're watching,
I do love the finish on this thing. You know what? The depth and the shininess of platinum just reminds me of nickel. You know, there was some parts for my Harley that old NOS parts that when Harley Davidson used to make the stuff in Mexico, not in Taiwan. They actually made it and finished it out of nickel. Mm-hmm. And when you get the parts, the finish of nickel is completely different than chrome. And this platinum just reminds me so much of nickel, because chrome is got the reflection, you know, but nickel, you get the depth. You just get such depth, and that's what this platinum reminds me of. This is his finished deal because it's got the rotor installed that he the rotor that he custom I guess designed or told them that they wanted, and this thing looks so killer with that rotor on it.
Yeah, let me see.
It's pretty cool. I mean, this to me, like, this is pretty cool to me, because I mean, you get something that's designed exactly the way you like it, you want it. You get input in it, and you know, when you go to I mean, you're a high horology guy. I mean, what do you think about the build quality of this thing and the finish? It's just fucking
I'll pull up the rotor here. I'll pull up the rotor here in a second. I just wanted to address this comment from Peter K. Patek's 5153 in any color. So I pulled up white gold with that officer style case back, which is the hunter case back that Archie calls it. Would be my choice when it comes to Calatrava. Yeah, look, this is a very traditional looking Calatrava. And hey, you know, everyone's got a different style. Everyone's got, you know, something that they feel is, you know, a better look for themselves. I'll kind of show here with the case back opened up. But you know, definitely a beautiful piece. Whatever floats your boat. Look, I don't believe in telling people, you know, what they should and shouldn't buy. I don't believe in, like, you know, perpetuating, you know, groupthink for the sake of doing it because everyone else is doing it, right? If this is what you like, you know, then you should pursue that. And I think that that's very important, and no one should really, you know, no one should really tell you otherwise.
Yeah, there's a lot of viewpoints that I pick up on from you guys in the watch community. Some guys are value conscious, some guys are horology conscious, some guys are, you know, hours of finishing, the finish on the watches, you know, value retention. It's interesting. I mean, you know, I understand the thought process of all the different opinions on when you collect and stuff, because I apply it to different stuff that I do, you know, like at my fishing club, when a new reel comes out, it's the same kind of guys sitting around, you know, contemplating and giving their opinion on a fishing reel. But you know, it's the language and the jargon is about the same, but you guys apply it to something that's 10 times, 50 times the cost. And you know, yeah, you gotta like it. I mean,
watch collecting is not that complicated, man. Like, you really, if you like it, if it looks good on your wrist. I mean, this is jewelry, right? It really is. Like, let's just call it spade a spade. It's fucking jewelry. You know, and that's the point is if you like it, that's all that really fucking matters. You can learn all day long about movements and nerd out on shit, which you see us do, but like, you know, it's like a car, right? Like you don't have to be a car guy to like, you know, a Ferrari. You really don't. You know, and
Hey,
it's the same with
look,
watches.
to me, it's really simple. When you spend this amount of money on these luxury watches, it's nice to have validation from people, and it's also nice to get different viewpoints because you know how it goes. I mean, you guys really, really, when you chase these things, you know, I don't know about you guys. Well, I do know because I mean, it's got to be the same feeling. The chase is half the fun, you know,
The
especially
hunt
the
is
more,
half the fun.
yeah, the more
Absolutely.
parameters you put yourself on. Like if you set a price and the market is the market availability is so much, all that stuff, you know, if you meet all your goals chasing down the watch that you want, that's half the passion, you know, the hunt. Half the passion, if not more, is the hunt. You
Absolutely.
know,
We got
now
a super chat
when
here.
you
Sorry,
go
I
ahead.
just want to read the
Sorry.
super chat. We got a super chat from Sean Snowden, UK supporter, £4.49. Call from 80 Explorer 39 grabber pass. So I'll have this up on the screen here for you, Curly. So the Explorer, you know, 36 millimeter, 36 millimeter is a, you know, 36 millimeter is considered probably on the low end of the range in terms of, you know, modern watch sizes. You can take it off. You can take the super chat off.
Okay.
I just want to show you the watch.
This is another one.
No, we don't. Yeah, let's just do Sean's first, and then we'll.
Okay.
We don't blast through here on my show like Archie does. We give people value for their dollars and pounds.
Okay.
So yeah, on this one, you know, 36 millimeters is to me is the classic size for the Explorer One or the original Explorer. I showed it on the wrist here. You know, to me, honestly, Sean, this doesn't look small. I've worn the 36 millimeter Explorer. I have a 7-inch wrist. It's not small for me. You know, I think that it'll depend on your wrist size. If you've got a gigantic wrist, you probably want to try it on. If you've got a normal wrist, it'll look absolutely perfect. Classic size for the Explorer. To me, you know, I'm a purist like that, and I would probably prefer. And like I said, I've owned the 39 millimeter Explorer, and it just looked out of place. So the 36 millimeter Explorer looks good to me. Curly, when you see this as an outsider, somebody who's not into watches, and you saw this on someone's wrist, you know, would this look out of place to you? And we're not talking about if you're specifically looking and you're just trying to analyze it, but like if you just glanced at this walking past, like, does this look out of place?
It all depends on what the guy looks like that's carrying it. I mean, the other thing too, I believe this is the watch that Timely Behavior is talking about, is getting his next Rolex. I thought it was this, but no, I mean, no watch looks out of place to me. Look, I've watched my dad for years have a little rectangular dress watch when he used to get dressed up, a little Longines that he had, and then he had a Concord as far as his daily wear, and it was definitely 36 and under. I mean, it all depends on how it makes you feel. I mean, to me, wearing any kind of Rolex as a man, you know, you know, that's the pinnacle of treating yourself to a luxury watch. But on me, I can tell you, on me, it would look a little ridiculous.
When he says grabber pass, right? Like usually when it comes to a 36 millimeter or what people perceive as a smaller watch, you know, people are a little concerned about, you know, should I get this or not? Look, for me, Sean, I think this is a grab. I'm a purist. I feel that the 36 millimeter Explorer is perfect. You know, like I said, I have friends that have this watch. Does not look out of place. So yeah, like
especially Tan, this combination black and white. Black dials always look bigger on the wrist. A black dial, to me, always makes the watch.
And that's why I asked you, right? I asked you because we're not talking about watch collectors, because every watch collector is going to be like, oh, girl size, oh, I get a 40, oh, I get a 41.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But look, I think that get past that, Snowden, and if you like the Explorer One, this is the one to get in my opinion. I would probably take this if I had the opportunity to get one. So hopefully that answers your question.
It's clean.
We've got Addis 199 4K for Hublot Classic Fusion as a beater. I'm going to show you the Hublot Classic Fusion. Hublot Classic Fusion. We'll just pick the gold one. This is upside down, so maybe I'll show you one that's not upside down here, Curly, just for your take. This is 42 millimeters. Oh, fuck, these photos are shit. So I like to zoom in, guys, for you guys. I like to actually go into I like to go into the photos and actually find something that looks nice. But this is a classic Fusion. He's getting it at a pretty decent price. Hublots are they're historically known for not necessarily keeping a ton of value. So he's already buying it with a lot of depreciation, probably already been hit. So is it going to go down further than that? Maybe not. Look, Hublot is a very polarizing brand. It's a very polarizing design for some people. I know I have watch collector friends that absolutely love them and don't care what anybody thinks. And if that's who you are, I would say yes, absolutely do it. If you do care what other people think, you're definitely going to get some comments, and maybe that's what you want, right? Is some comments, and people will probably perceive that you bought it at retail, which is probably not true. But hey, classic beater would be a cool beater. I never actually owned a Hublot myself, and yeah, you know what? I wouldn't mind. Wouldn't mind diving a bit, like I said, get off the beaten path and try something else, and maybe you might like it, right? Because honestly, if I'd never put on the Royal Oak, if I'd never put on the Reverso, if I'd never put on the Hulk on my wrist, those are watches I didn't like, and I thought were just trash, and I would have overlooked them. So if you have tried this on, you do like it, do it. Price is not bad. Like I said, you've eaten a lot of depreciation already. I don't know, Curly, if you like this watch or not.
No, for $4,000, it's not my style. For $4,000, I go to a Tudor.
Mr. Jonathan says, my watch is ready. Which email can I send you a teaser pic? Jonathan, if you have Curly's email, Curly, if you want to draw, do you know, it's like ac3funny@gmail.com, I believe it is.
He's got my real email.
Yeah, Jonathan, just send it to Curly. And
I'll send it to your WhatsApp.
Yeah, and he'll send it to my WhatsApp.
Yeah. I'll make sure you include the strap, Jonathan.
Breitling Chronomat GMT. Now we're getting interesting. This is from Ramsey, $2. Breitling Chronomat GMT. So Mark Goldberg loves his Breitling Chronomats. I always kind of troll him on it. I'll show you Curly a Breitling Chronomat GMT. I always troll him on just how gaudy these can be. But I don't truly dislike them. Very unique, obviously, bracelet design. Your typical Chronomat case design. Not a bad looking watch. I prefer it in the blue to the green. I'm not a huge when it comes to Breitling. What the fuck just happened? I'm not usually a huge fan of Breitling outside of I don't even like the Super Ocean, to be honest. I don't like Super Ocean Heritage 2, which I've tried on. I do actually prefer this. It's probably blasphemy.
Right, I'm gonna ask you a chooch question. Okay, chronograph has got the subdials. What is a chronomat? What is this? What is the function? I see it's got 4 hands.
This is a GMT function.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just the name of the watch, right?
Yeah, I know what a GMT is. Okay.
Yeah, this is a GMT.
So dual time zones. You could set dual time zones.
That's right. So you'll see the GMT hand here, and you got the outer ring, which will show the GMT time zone, and then you'll have your regular time zone, your regular seconds. The chronomat's just a line, and I'll show you another chronomat here, just to kind of give you an idea.
So instead of calling it GMT, they call it a chronomat.
Yeah, you have the chronomat. Here's a chronograph version of the chronomat. This is a 44 millimeter, and look, can feel a little bit gaudy on the design. Yeah. Not for everybody. Definitely a polarizing question. But you have chronomats like here that are just this is like a dress watch.
Your audio's cutting in and out, Tans, all of a sudden. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, you're blanking out for a second, and then you come back.
Okay, give me a sec.
Yeah. So good afternoon, guys. I hope you're enjoying some afternoon watch talk. It's kind of nice and mellow, and me, I do like listening in and helping Tans out. I got about an hour to kill, so I figured I'd jump on and help my man out. Always when I can.
How about now?
Oh, holy fuck! Whoa!
You can turn down my mic if you need to. I just went on the speakers. Yeah, I guess my AirPods have died or something.
No, you sound good now. You sound good.
Okay. Yeah. So like I was saying, that the chronomat's a lineup, right? And you can see the design of the chronomat. You can kind of see the design language here is consistent with the design language, for example,
cool
here.
Dial. Cool dial. I like that.
Yeah, like it's just a design type watch. So he's asking about the GMT specifically. like I said, I always kind of give Goldberg shit for these kind of Breitlings. But if I were to choose the GMT, I would go with the blue GMT here. So I like pretty clean way of showing the GMT. So no issues on this side for me. I definitely would say, yeah, it's cool. It's a cool piece if you like it. If this design's for you, Curly, do you think you'd ever wear one of these?
I mean, if I got it as a gift, of course I would wear it, but I wouldn't buy it. It's just too much. This is stainless.
Yeah, it's just steel.
Yeah, it's just too much shininess. I don't like shiny. I don't like the bezel. Yeah,
it's polarizing. Some people absolutely love these Breitlings and just they just can't get enough of them. That's Mark Goldberg. Mark Goldberg has this is his guilty pleasure. He's all over fucking eBay looking for these. So Ramsey, if you are to get one of these, definitely get it at a discount.
Bracelet's kind of cool. I like the way the bracelet finishes into the head of the watch. That's kind of cool.
So Vintinier, Jin actually lives in Chicago, by the way, Curly.
Does he?
Yeah, he does. So he says Chicago area AD actually told me and dog trainer, that's Mark Goldberg, that 34 millimeter is still a very popular size for men. Yeah, look, I've heard a lot of BS come from dealers. I remember when I first started collecting watches and going to the ADs, the Rolex Air King was still out at the 34 millimeter size, and at the time I didn't have as much money to buy watches, and so I was kind of I was shopping at a discount, and I asked the SA like, hey, what about the Air King? And he's like, come on, man. He's like, you don't want a 34 millimeter watch. He's like, look, don't be cheap. Spend an extra grand or two, whatever it might be, to get into a Datejust. Just get a Datejust. Get a 36. Do not get a 34. So it's I have an idea of which AD this could be, Curly. They would have probably a dealership in Oak Brook, maybe in what's that other mall? Woodfield? That's the big one, eh? Woodfield.
There's a few. There's Oak Brook, Northbrook. There's Old Orchard. I see. You know who I see? You know why? As a matter of fact, there's a huge billboard right down my block, and believe it or not, a lot of advertising on the highway bill. Rolex is the main thing, and it's wild watches.
You know what I love about the advertising on the billboards? When you go through Chicago and you're going towards maybe you're going to O'Hare, and you're driving through the highway and you just see these billboards. You ever seen the ones about the hair club? There's 3 billboards in a row for the hair club.
Yeah.
I always laugh at those. But yeah, Jen, 34 millimeters. I don't know. I don't think that's for a man. All right, I think we're caught up with a lot of the chat. Maybe I'll go through and look. I'll pull up Jonathan's. I'll pull up his movement here as well. So we went through.
Look at that! What a difference that rotor makes, boy. Jonathan, good call on that rotor. Wow.
Yeah, Jonathan went through. He went through in depth just the time it took to finish this rotor. And I obviously appreciate him going through the time, because we even talked about when Jonathan himself was trying to do guilloche and was fucking up and was complaining about how hard it was to get it right. I asked Jonathan, well, what is the failure rate on this, something like this? And he's like, very high. And this is a gold rotor, Curly. So prior to them making it blue, and I believe you have to heat it up or what have you to get it to blue, you have to finish the rotor first on its yellow gold.
They put a coating on it and then they flame it to get this color what he was talking about. And I know
they call it blue gold. And he said that even just like with screws, the blue can turn purple, and it has to be the right shade of blue. But just the level of finishing. And if you fuck up on gold, right, you're taking gold off, as well as when you're actually doing guilloche on gold. So
my cousin on his Corvette, he spent $1,000. He put a custom exhaust on it, and it came with that. The tips alone were $1,000, and he tried to flame them. A lot of people do that with titanium. They, because it gets a bluish, purplish color, and he went a little too far and just discolored the shit out of them. So there's some type of if I remember, Jonathan said that some type of an iron coating they put over the gold. Then they flame it. They have that color. And actually, he called this finishing. He didn't call it guilloche. He called it something else. I'm interested if he could drop. I see him in the chat. If he could drop the actual work that they do to make these triple pyramid design on here. If I remember, Jonathan, it wasn't called Guilloche. It was called something else. If you don't mind popping in there. But boy, does that thing just sets that watch off. It's beautiful. See, this is what I love about the miniature fabrication and engineering to make these pieces is what fascinates me, because I work with micro gears and stuff when I do my fishing reels, and it's just amazing the type of work that the precision work on such a miniature scale fascinates me, man.
Yeah, and I think this is part of the importance of why Jonathan had it designed a certain way.
There he goes. Let me see what he says here.
Yeah, I'll let you get to that. There's some super chats here. Sorry.
Okay.
Super chat. So Chris, 349 New Zealand dollars. Thoughts on Panerai under Jean-Marc Pontrou. So he is, I believe he's running. He's joined Panerai, and he I think it was maybe 2018 ish. Yeah, I think it was around 2018 where he joined as CEO of Panerai, and I don't know if it was under him that I believe it was when the Douai came out, which to me is it's a strange, man. It was a strange decision to go with the Douai, because it's just so the Douai Free Curly is a watch that is a very small amount of water resistance. I think it's like 30 meters, and Panerais themselves are famous for being dive watches.
Mm-hmm.
Their history was they were military issued pieces for the Italian frogmen. World War II, it was the Radiomir Panerai that was issued, and they used to have Ebosh movements using Rolex made movements, pocket watch movements from Rolex, and then later on they came out with the Luminor, which is probably your more common Panerai that you'd see, and they had a resurgence in the 90s. Sylvester Stallone, obviously being a big proponent of them in the 90s. And they were actually, Curly, the history of Panerai is you see Rolex today is all the hype. In the 90s, it was all Panerai. Like you couldn't get, you couldn't get a Panerai, just like you can't get a Rolex today. So fast forward into 2018, Jean-Marc Pontrou joins Panerai, and look, some things are interesting with Panerai, these days. Some things aren't. The Douai, for me, for example, was not an interesting watch. I really didn't understand it. If I was a CEO of a company, would I ever really produce a watch like that? To me, Panerai, and this is the Douai, by the way, I'm talking about, Curly, is this watch. You can pick any of these, but I'll pick this one here. If you go to technical details of the piece, you've got 30-meter water resistance. Now, this is your classic Luminor. You've got this, you got this crown protector, that was made to be, it's made to protect the crown underwater and from knocks and stuff like that. It's a 30-meter water resistance. Like, what's the fucking point? So Chris, long-winded answer to you, and I'm just picking on the Douai. I'm not going to go through the full history of what he's done from 2018 onwards. I think this was just a strange piece. I don't really understand it. To me, if I were running Panerai, I would stick to the essence of what you guys make. They moved to in-house movements. They're doing everything. They're dabbling into like complications and stuff like that. Like, I would stick to the essence of the brand in terms of, the tradition of being a dive watch. I would probably do some grassroots marketing, get, really the collectors of Panerai really hyped about it, really showing the, that dive aspect to it, maybe getting in front of, and, as brands get, close to, certain collectors, maybe even doing excursions with those collectors, really building a close bond with the brand. I think the brand needs to do that. I think the brand has lost its way. They've gotten a lot of heat from the scandal where they produced a movement, produced a watch with the closed case back, and then people realized the movement wasn't finished to the quality of what it should be. Like they've been route with scandals like that, and I think that they've just kind of given an air of I don't give a shit about the consumer, and I think that's where they need to take a 180 and actually give a shit about the consumer and really listen to what consumers talking about. So, long-winded answer to a $2 super chat. Swing Kangaroo, $2. I've got a 5.8-inch wrist, and yes, got 44mm OP beater, cool watch. Yeah, look, Swing Kangaroo, for certain people, a 34mm will be just fine. I think that, The comment from Jen was saying that 34 millimeter is a popular watch for men, and I think that may be a bit of a misstatement on the AD's part, spruiking a bit of misinformation. Yes, there are some folks that can absolutely pull off a 34 millimeter. Would I say that most men would be able to pull off a 34 millimeter, or would it would be fashionable today? Maybe not, right?
Tan, let me address something here. I am checking the chat. I just don't want to interrupt Tanzil. Jonathan, I wasn't aware I wasn't supposed to share those pictures. Sorry, buddy. I had no clue. That wasn't in the email, but if you're saying so, I apologize. I don't know. Okay. He's saying I wasn't supposed to share the pics. Were you going to send different pics, or?
Yeah,
Is that the real Jonathan Quayle Higgins?
I don't know. Okay. But if it is or not, it's hey, he has a finished watch, so for him, he'll.
Yeah, I wasn't aware I wasn't supposed to share the pic. I mean, why would you send a non-watch guy the pictures? Sorry, that's all I could do is apologize. I can't take it back, so don't send me pics anymore, Jonathan. I don't know what to tell you. You got a super chat, Tan. I just wanted to address it because the one guy was saying we were ignoring the chat. I wasn't ignoring it. I just didn't want to interrupt Tanzio.
Wasn't the original point of the crown guard was to avoid having to use a screw down and risk cross-setting on a manual wine watch, but to ensure a water seal? JBI, it may have been. I think that this is also, the design of this is also, to protect the crown from also knocks underneath the water. It's a specific design that Panerai has that is patented to them. But again, right, it
looks like what this guy did was he tried to make a heavy duty industrial looking dive watch into a street casual, business casual watch, which is a complete miss. I mean, why would you do that? Just design a fucking dress watch if you want a dress watch.
Yeah, and I think the big thing here for JBI is to ensure a water seal, right? Like, if this is the case, right, you got a 30 millimeter resistant watch, like, arguably, is that really going to be something that you're going to want to swim with? Is that really something that, is of the history of this watch when it comes to being a dive piece? And I just think it's superfluous to have, this design, right? I think if they were going to do a piece like this, a 30 millimeter piece, a 30 meter resistant piece, just change the design, right? Create a new watch. I think that would have been, in my opinion, probably a bit better of a solution than make it seem like using the technology that, as he's describing, could be the exact purpose of it. And if it is, then, in this scenario with a 30 meter resistant watch, kind of defeats the point, in my opinion. So yeah, you can read this one out for us, Fairly.
Jean-Marc Poitras is comparably as ill-equipped to run a watch company as Tim Wright is to talk about watches with expertise. Hey, he could fumble and mumble his way through it like the best of us. I mean, if it works for him, it works for him. I take my hat off to him. That's all. He's working it. He's working it, baby. He's working the hustle. He's hustling. Can't take that away from the guy. He is
working the leads. Yeah. All right, so we're going to show here. This is a super chat from Mr. Zoso, $5. Excited for the Yema Wristmaster Micro Rotor Limited Edition. Thoughts Sam might have asked you before. I don't know if you asked me specifically about this one. Let's have a look. This says 75 timepieces available. Pre-order for Yema's first premium manufacturer micro rotor timepiece. Choose amongst 3 dial colors. October 2023. So let's zoom in on this Wristmaster. Interesting dial, very Nautilus-esque. No date. I have a picture of the micro rotor. Here we go. 80% French made, not 100% Swiss made. 80%. At least they're being honest here. Decent accuracy, -3+7. That's pretty cool. 20% Swiss made, 70 hours power reserve. It's got a micro rotor. Looks pretty industrial. And I don't really see an issue with this piece. Price is not actually bad. I think it was something like $3K. Design's pretty cool. Yeah, honestly, so if this is something you like, man, I don't really see anything really wrong with it. They're being honest about its manufacturer. It's gonna show you a couple of the pieces here. I think it's blue. It's nice. I'm a sucker for blue, I guess. I know Bear likes his green. I'm a sucker for blue. Um, but yeah, looks pretty cool. Looks priced pretty decently, Zoso. So definitely no beef with this. Curly, what do you think of this piece?
I don't know why he's wasting his time. You know, the thing is, a piece like this, it's got a lot of things that attract you to it, but then the stuff that doesn't, the stuff that turns me off a lot. Like that bezel completely turns me off. I mean, the movement I like, the dial I like, the hands I don't like, those blocky hands. There's no, but this indented like inner gear, whatever this is, the bezel just does nothing for me. I like the crown guards. I mean, I like the watch, but I wouldn't buy it because of the bezel. I hate the bezel.
Yeah, look, and I think that's important, right? Is on these pieces, it's also the aesthetic, and that's why I told you, watch collecting is not as complicated as you think it is. And Whole Milk says the colored finishing of the movement of Yema is clever, but the picks and the execution isn't that great. And look, like micro rotor is pretty simple. Looking here, but some people love a micro rotor. Like some people don't have a micro rotor in their collections. They may want one. I like this blue. I think this is pretty nice. Look, it's when it comes to when it comes to pieces like this and they're inexpensive, people are going to buy what they find is cool and what they find is really attractive to them. Other folks are going to say the quality is really bad and most design cues are a copy. I mean, I think that that's also a fair point, right? Other collectors will say, hey, for $3,000, you should ask for maybe better.
The case is super. The case is super clean on it. I like the way the crown guards melt into the crown. I like it. I like if I looked at this watch, I looked at the back of it, the bracelet, the finishing, I would go, man, I love it. Then you flip it over and I'd say, no thanks. But cool thing about Mr. Zoso, seems like the kind of watch collector that doesn't bow to any kind of peer pressure. He's his own collector. He doesn't collect out of peer pressure and doesn't take the peer pressure type of advice. No, you should. But a lot of people do. Hey, a lot of people do. Especially you get into these basically watch clubs, and I understand it. Hey, listen, I bought a lot of things fishing gear wise out of peer pressure just to try it out because everybody was saying it was the newest and greatest, and it ended up being wow, what the hell is this?
So Zoso was also looking at this piece a while back.
That's stunning.
Yeah, a few weeks back, we were talking about this on the main show, and this kind of pivot from the conversation you were saying about some people love it, some people hate it, some people purchase for different reasons, right? They did mention, by the way, that it had a Kickstarter, it was half the price. So, for half the price, it's probably, much better value than
now, is this platinum or white gold?
This is platinum. This is platinum, 5130 world time from Patek Philippe. And I think that the conversation was centered around he has a Daytona, and I think he might want to get rid of it. Or he just doesn't, I don't know if it was a Daytona or if he was adding a piece. But yeah, see, here we go. Now I know how to get 1105 into the chat here. And we had this whole, everybody voted on the panel, right? And I was kind of the last one, and everyone was like, you got to be crazy to get rid of whatever it was. And I think it was a Daytona. And at the end of it, I came out and I said, hey man, I could buy a Daytona all day long, right? You go to a watch meet, you'll see 5 Panda Daytonas. Will you see a 5130 platinum? Probably not. This is quite unique. It's a piece that you just don't see. I told them, I said, hey, this is an era of Patek Philippe when they had the crown guards on the watch. Size is more modern. It's not a small watch by any means. So I told them, I said, you know what, if it were me, I would probably go with the 5130p, just because it's more unique. It's more, and this is kind of the comment you were making, Curly, about hey, if it floats your boat, right? For me, I don't necessarily care what other people think, right? Oh, you're not wearing a Daytona.
Yeah.
I'm one of those 5 guys wearing the Rolex Daytona. At a watch, I'd rather have something that's a bit more special, a bit more unique, something that's of my taste. So when I talked to Mr. Zoso about this, I said, hey man, personally speaking, I'd go with the 5130. just because to me it's just a more interesting watch than your run of the mill Daytona.
I mean, this thing, the inner dial, that bluish inner dial is up. But see, now, like anything else, my taste comes into play. That what do you call the hour hand? That circle hour hand, that glow.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I think that just kills that kills the watch. If I were to look at this, look at the dial, and if the hands matched instead of having a circular hour thing, I would, depend. How much is this?
I'm trying to remember what Zoso said this was. I don't really remember it. He can probably post. He's in the chat, so he can post how much it was.
If this thing's anything, I mean, obviously it's a Patek Philippe and it's a world timer, so it's got to be over 20 grand. If I spend over 20 grand, Tan, I want. If I find one thing I don't like, I'm the kind of person that it's always going to be there and it's always going to bother me. I just won't buy it, no matter how much the dial I would fall in love with right off the bat, the depthness of the platinum, but that hour hand is a no-go for me.
Urban Colossus says, do you prefer these colors for world time over Archie's? Putting the platinum design aside, just coloration, yeah. I'll show you Archie's world time. He had the 5110J, and so this hand, by the way, the hand discussion is probably, you're probably going to like this one a little bit better. This was Archie's. Look, I actually like the design of the 5110, slightly better. I agree with Curly on the hands. Watch is just a little small for me. I think with a world time, from a legibility perspective, I'd probably want a larger watch. So I would have probably picked Archie's just for that, but if it was in a larger piece, which if you look at the modern version of it, or the last modern version, it's the 5230. Why not? This is the 5230. This is the modern iteration, Curly, of the watch, and so you got the hands have been, they're a bit different than the 5130.
Yeah.
Just in a different design, gear shade dial. I think this is quite a perfect looking watch to me. So this would probably be the world time I'd get. But like I said, 5130p. It also says he has a few Daytonas, guys. If he has a few Daytonas, also, like, you might as well get some variety and go.
Now you see the one thing, the hour hand is beautiful. The blue finishing is beautiful. Now the one thing that turns me off on this thing is where's the radius crown guards on that other gold one that looked so beautiful, the way the crown guards scalloped and melted into the crown. This is just the crown sticking out. I couldn't get it. It would bother me. I don't like that crown sticking out of the watch like that, and that pusher just sticking out like that.
That'll change the time zones. But yeah, look, people, like I said, some things bother certain people.
Yeah. Of course, everybody's different.
We've got Curly nitpicking on leather straps and iron hands. Jonathan, if you have the finished piece, please send it to Curly so I can show the finished piece. I don't know. He just sent me those photos. I just put them up. I didn't really go look at them in depth. I just, I was talking about our conversation from last time. Chris says, if Archie ever gets a piece unique world time, it should just have cities on the dial known for offering certain professional services. Bangers would be at the top, guys. It would be, you see here where London is, right at the top time zone. I would assume that would be Bangers right there. Would be his main time zone. But yeah, look, Archie said, it's funny because Archie has said to me, I don't like this world time because it doesn't have Brisbane on the dial. And I said, well, there are some that have a 5230, like this one there is one that has Brisbane on the dial. For me, I've shown watches of older Pateks world times that have Canadian cities. John Higgins and I talked about a Kerry Voutilainen that had a Canadian city called Calgary, which is not a very big city. It's in the western part of Canada. Just pretty cool to the original Patek World Time 1934 didn't have crowns. Yeah, you know what? 1105, the Crown Guard era, and this is a good topic. The Crown Guard era of Patek Philippe really was in that. We're talking in the 2000s, even probably like the late 90s. So if you look at the 5305, which is the 5305, which is the original annual calendar, and this was released probably in the 90s. No crown guards. When we get into the 5107, which is Archie's Calatrava, you'll start seeing in this era crown guards,
that looks awesome.
crown guards on a
I
dress,
like that.
which is pretty unusual, really. So you see crown guards show up here in this kind of era, which I think was like the 2000s, the early 2000s, just because the style of watches was becoming sporty, and so Patek Philippe is presenting a case design that's quite sporty. When you go to the next model, the 5127, continues the crown guard, continues the crown guard design here. And the next model of in this dress level Patek. When we go into the later version, the modern version, the 5227.
So when you're saying this, Tan, you mean the crown guards were introduced on the Calatrava models first?
It was that era, right? It wasn't just the color.
Okay.
There were other watches, like I showed you, the same era, the 5110, which is the original, the world time that Archie had crown guards as well. So it's not necessarily the Calatrava, but the era.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. You see, I like that. So you know what happens for me when you put the crown guards and wrap the scallop the crown, I don't mind the just square push button to change the world time, dial or whatever. I don't mind. But when you got two protrusions, one on each side of the watch, then it bugs me. See, that's just beautiful. I love that. I love the scalloped crown guards on the watch. I mean, any watch.
This is an interesting point. So, as I mentioned, it wasn't just on the Calatrava, it was also on the world time, as I showed, which Just James also pointed out. So 1105 says, I really like the crown guards, but as the size of the case is increased, with the crown guards, don't look elegant. Is this the actual? Yeah, it is very clean.
Jonathan sent me the just that first picture, which was cryptic. I don't know what the fuck is he doing, but then he actually sent the pictures of his actual watch. I just sent it to you on a WhatsApp in our group.
Good afternoon, Bear.
Hey, Curly, my Chicago brother.
Just sitting here helping Tans out.
So it's a perfect discussion perfect timing because you're talking war time right now. We're talking war time.
There you go. It's
actual pictures of his actual watch. It's actually fucking beautiful. He sent it to you, Curly, too, but Curly's response time is always about an hour and a half behind.
I had to have my wife actually is the one. I could only do it on the phone. Share it to WhatsApp. She's the one who figured it out for me. I don't pay any attention to that stuff there. That's her job. That's her whole job.
And by the way, JHQ, I would have done it right away, but I had a conference call unexpectedly, something to do with financials. And when financials are being questioned, I cannot ignore it.
All right, guys. So this is
you notice that there's no strap there.
Yeah, he knew you're going to be on the chat, so he did not want any criticism. Therefore, he went without the straps for now.
You see, Tan, look at the crown is almost recessed. You know what I mean? I like that. It's clean.
Yeah, all these little details. I wish Jonathan could hop on. I know that he's busy right now.
He can. He said that he can. I asked him, but he can't.
No, that's fine. Bear, we were kind of looking at the fact that Darwin is now gone. New York is now gone from the picture, and it looks complete now. So we're really happy for Jonathan.
No, he's got New York in there. It's just spelled correctly now.
Yes, spelled correctly. When it was New York, it was Jonathan on the last stream kind of talked to us about New York. But obviously some cities on here that are, for those that missed the last stream, some cities on here that are very important to Jonathan.
The other thing, I'll tell you one thing I don't like this.
I'll tell you, if I'm doing my personal watch after that live stream, you guys made it very interesting. By the way, I have come to realization that the world time is the perfect personal watch. Because you can really, besides obviously being made for you to your specifications and everything else, you can really choose the cities of the world that matter to you personally. I find that to be so cool.
Well, bespoke luxury, anything is cool.
Okay, we got a request. Now, Jonathan, I know that I don't know if you've done this battle yet on yours. I don't think this is going to be the same battle because I think he's battling Jamie Opulence's newer version of this, but the mispronounced version that Curly says Forbidden Colossus, which is Forbidden Colossus, is
Forbidden Colossus.
Forbidden Colossus is asking, can you compare to my 5131, my favorite 5131? I think Forbidden Colossus, you're thinking about this 5131. I'm going to pull up on the screen. Look, I got a better one with the wrist shot. Share this tab. So this is the custom style Patek Philippe on a bracelet. Our friend Fella has this as well. I know Jonathan's going to go through. He's going to go through a battle, and if you notice here, we got some crown guards, boys. We got some crown guards as well.
Is there any shot of the point buckle on this bracelet, or a little bit more of the bracelet?
Yeah, let me see if
that's pretty cool.
What's your obsession with the bracelets and straps? Just curious.
Well, for me, Bear, that's like a rim on cars. It makes the head of the watch.
Right.
I mean, it's 40% of the elegance and beauty of whatever you got. I mean, so
by the way, Dirk is here, and Alex, the watchmaker. I want to say first hi to Alex, watchmaker, and then I want to say hi to Dirk, who's asking, who says that he's glad to turn into this show to hear Curly's vast watch knowledge. Let's make Dirk feel comfortable with the watch knowledge, and let's say many. Wow, what a beautiful watch.
Insane.
Dude, it's insane.
Ooh,
dude, wow, that's insane. Dude,
Red, look. Oh, wow.
Red, look at this. Wow, this is insane. Is that better?
We got to do
a comfortable now?
Tim, that last watch, the bracelet and the watch head, what was that, platinum or was that white gold?
This one was the 5131 platinum.
Yeah,
that's Jonathan's watch is platinum.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
And so was
that's
this other
fucking
one.
Gorgeous. Colors are gorgeous, man. I sent you a movement picture as well, by the way. You have a movement there as well.
I don't know how this is different than what Curly sent. So, like, I haven't been paying attention because, obviously running this stream and doing that at the same time, it's not. I don't have the time to necessarily just look really closely. But I'll pull up the movement picture here. So this is the movement picture. I don't know how this picture was different than what Curly sent me. So Jonathan can tell us what was different. But
Jonathan's trolling me.
Yeah, he's been turning into a troll, that's for sure. You have a bad influence on people, Curly. There's the moment.
Yeah. So we were talking about the guilloche work on the rotor. This was a big piece that Jonathan went through.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guilloche
movement. What? Yeah. Guilloche work. Oh wow.
The beveling. Curly, wow. Oh, awesome on the beveling. Oh.
That's
insane.
It's insane, dude.
It's insane.
Dude. I'm sorry. I'm not destroying 10. I apologize, man. Keep going.
Now, 10, let me ask you something, or Jonathan. All right. So there's one thing.
By the way, guys, you missed Elvis' super chat, as Curly calls him, but it's El's super chat.
Yeah. I didn't want to pull it up because
Formex Reef, GMT, or Longines Spirit Zulu. I like an actual GMT watch I can travel with, not being scared of being targeted for Rolex or even Tudor. I'm not familiar with these watches, so let me pull them up. Formex Reef, GMT.
I am familiar with both. Listen, Longines Spirit Zulu is definitely a better choice as a watch in all aspects. There's no comparison here, honestly. You comparing that Longines Spirit Zulu is a watch that's actually probably able to compete with the Tudor Black Bay Pro, and it's one of the greatest releases last year, probably best. This is garbage, by the way. Just throw that away. Throw that shit away. Longines Spirit Zulu is a fantastic issue from Longines, best issue from Longines by far. I would say in the last few years. Exceptional watch, exceptional watch for the money, true GMT, with great heritage look. My only complaint would be that it's slightly thicker than I like, but that's a Longines issue anyway.
Yeah, looking at both these watches, I like to look at the Longines a lot better. I do understand what he's saying, right? Like, I don't want to travel with my GMT. It's unfortunate that we have to think of that in this day and age, because I used to travel with my GMT all the time, and it was definitely definitely part of the fun of being able to travel with your watch and enjoy it. So you look, yeah, if you're to pick probably one of these two, like I said, Bear knows he's better than I do, so he's picking the Longines. Curly, do you like the Longines better than the other one? What were your thoughts?
I do, yeah. Yeah, I didn't like that, whatever that little polka dot bracelet the other one had, but
polka dot door. Fucking
and I like the dial on this, and
We're
I like
missing
the hands better.
The narc. The narc is fucking pokeroo these days. We can never find the narc. Joseph D, $10. Thanks for the show, 10. You're the reason the word legend exists. Well, that's really nice of you to say. Appreciate the super chat and the comment. We do these shows, at a time zone or a time that makes it accessible for North Americans that are probably at work just listening to us podcast style, or or playing hooky at work and not actually working. To Europeans who, this is their evening time. It's probably 8:15 in the UK, 9:15 on the mainland of Europe. So it's time where they're probably having a drink after dinner, just relaxing, preparing maybe to watch the main show. The main show does come at a pretty late time for the European folks, so I do appreciate those joining in. We do have JJ in the chat. JJ, I've dropped the link if you want to join. We were talking just a few minutes ago around the crown guard piece of Patek, right? And let me see if I can pull this up again. So I was talking about an era of Patek where the crown guards were around, and the folks, I think it was 1105, who said, it just makes the case a bit bigger. It just makes the look a little bit different.
Super chat from Trading Profits, $1.80, pound 80.
Read it for me. Sorry, I'm just on the.
This is your question, man. Patek.
Yeah, no, I was just asking if someone can read it.
I'll read it for you, of course. Yeah. Patek Philippe 4947/1A at retail or secondary. Thoughts? Once again, it's a 4947/1A.
4947/1A. All right, so we got an annual calendar moon phase piece. This is using the 324 movement, 38 millimeters.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, let me share it. Sorry, I wasn't sharing here.
Ooh.
So this is also on a bracelet. Very traditional annual calendar design. This is very similar to the 5146, which also uses the 324 movement. Interesting way of doing the numerals. I've actually not looked at this piece before, so this is the first time I'm looking at it.
I don't like the how narrow the subdials are. That really bothers
me. Yeah, this subdial. I'll show you the Patek 5146. It's similar to the 5146, which is the successor of the original. It's the successor of the original 5035. So it is traditional in that sense of the way that the original annual calendars came out. So as a purist, I don't have a beef with that. I think that's fine. I like the fact that the Patek Philippe's at the top. You'll see on the 5.1, this really irked a lot of collectors. They put Patek Philippe at the bottom as opposed to being on the top like they had on the 5035.
Mm-hmm.
Look, annual calendars are not super sought after. Like, they're not hype pieces. This is an annual calendar moon phase. This is a very basic complication, if you could say basic for complications. I think it's a beautiful watch. I love the texture of this style. I think it's very stunning. You're not really going to find this and to answer the question, Trading Profits, I don't know how you're going to find this on the secondary. This is a problem with Patek Philippe on the secondary, is when you start looking on the secondary market, like, you don't find a ton of stuff that's like this, that's not very common. So if you could get this on the secondary, you're probably going to get it for a steal. I just don't think you're going to find it on the secondary. So if not, and you want the watch, I'd probably buy it retail.
What do you think about the bracelet?
You know what? I don't hate it.
Troll.
No, I don't like the bracelet cheapens the whole watch. I just don't like that bracelet. Look at it. It looks like the Seamaster bracelet or whatever that Omega was.
You know what, Curly? You're noticing something that I dislike about bracelets in Patek. I find them to be dated. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. I know that's something that guys like.
Is that the same watch, Tan? The
Yeah,
one
the
with
one
the
on the
leather
left, the
strap?
one on the left is the same watch. The one on
Yeah,
the
look
right,
at the difference. Look at how much more elegant it looks on the croc strap.
They will never admit that these bracelets are fucking dated. The Tanzils of the world and Archies of the world. They
Oh.
No, I'm not going to say it's not dated. I know that certain people like this style, like a Doc BBW likes the style of bracelet.
Well, that tells you everything.
You know, but there are people that like these bracelets. As a complete watch, honestly, of all the bracelet watches, I actually like this the best.
No, you know what's the problem? I gotta tell you what's the problem with me. I mean, Curly immediately puts me in a mode of troll, and I forget that this is actually very serious and informative show with person like Tan, who is opposite of Curly, who is not a troll, who is educated man, and then I don't know where I belong. Where do I belong, Curly? Tell me.
I'm just telling you honestly that to me, this bracelet cheapens up the watch for me, as my eye tells me. I don't know anything about this watch. I don't know how much it cost, but you put Patek Philippe on a watch. I think of high horology. I think of elegance. I think of sophistication. That bracelet to me doesn't say any of that. Now I'll tell you what, that world timer, the platinum world timer that you had like 3 or 4
gorgeous, eh?
windows back, that bracelet was totally different than this, and it looked pretty good on that world timer. This is
to be honest with you, the only bracelet that looks cool to me when it comes to Patek is the Nautilus. But I'm a guy who gets excited about the
hype, baby, the hype.
Yeah, but it's also a sport watch, okay? Like, let's be honest, on a sport watch, the bracelet is going to be always different than on a dress watch.
No, this is rubber.
Guys, let me read the comments, guys. We've got some differing opinions here. So Chris says 4947-1A won't have a long run as they expect the 324 will be phased out. That's true. Along with the 5396, which is my favorite annual calendar, and the 5736. Nice watch, but an old school looking annual calendar. An aperture style is nicer to me. So this is an old school looking annual calendar because it is taking the style of the original 5035. Higgins says, I agree with Bear Clooney. The sub-dials are too close. The module is too S-all. So a lot of people are just talking about the design of it. Patek Philippe bracelet certainly wasn't on the moon, yes, for our buddy Doc BBW. I'm going to show you another bracelet watch here, guys. So Curly, this is the 5960. Annual calendar.
Now this I like. Now the bracelet. I don't like the pushers and I don't like the crown, but the bracelet. Look at that. I mean, I don't know. Is that because it's a different finish? Is that platinum?
No, this is steel. These are steel watches.
The bracelet's beautiful. I mean,
yeah, I'll show you this one steel.
It's almost like a herringbone type. I love that bracelet. See, now that bracelet to me screams it's nice. But then again, the watch looks much sportier. The dial looks sportier. It fits the watch. The other one that
and look, this is also an annual calendar. Now, this is an annual calendar with an extra complication, with the chronograph complication in it as well. Whereas the other one was just an simple annual calendar. My advice to the guy super chatting for trading profits was, hey, these watches, and I'll be very honest. I'll just show you guys. I'll just pull up Watch Recon. This is what I use often enough to. I don't know if you guys ever use this. Use Watch Recon. I'll pull this up here. Share this tab, and I look up Patek Philippe. We look up Patek Philippe type pieces and just go price high to low. Nautilus, Aquanaut. Here's a Cloisonné 5131 that we've looked at today on the Cloisonné. Nautilus, sport watches. This is a annual. This is a perpetual calendar for series German edition. Nautilus, Aquanaut, you're seeing a ton of these, pieces, and then you'll see the odd annual calendar that are, out there that are popular, like the 5205, 5146 was the annual calendar that showed Aquanaut. The majority of these you're going to see are the popular watches that we're talking about. We talked about the 5524 today. So the watch that he's speaking about, not as common, to find around. So if his question was, hey, do I buy this on secondary? My answer is, if you can find this on the secondary, I guarantee you it's going to be at a good deal. So absolutely, I don't see it being on the secondary very often. So you probably just have to go retail on it. Fucking Ron the Shrink. Zin actually makes some fucking awesome bracelets too. Ron, hop on the panel, man. Definitely want to talk watches. Voulez-vous likes to talk about Curly's diet.
Sorry to interrupt. JJ wants to flex, so he sent a picture of his Patek if you want to post it.
Okay.
JJ is all about flexing, just so we understand that. We call it as we see it.
Yeah, it's gotta be very careful. I just got to be very careful with what's up. I don't want to dox anybody. So, all right. So we've got JJ Leco.
Yeah.
Leco. He's got this on a strap. Look, JJ, this doesn't look dress watchy. It doesn't look old manish. It looks quite modern. We got the great, dual complication here.
He's very insecure. I told him once I don't like it, and he sold it right away.
This is the thing. It's just, because everyone doesn't talk about it all. Oh, here we go. We got JJ Leco.
You see, Bear's a bit of a prick, because I'll tell you why, Bear. But he knows how to get you to come on the panel. He knows how to break your balls to come on the panel.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you JJ Lacoute, one of the stars of Archieverse. Welcome, JJ.
So JJ, tell us about this watch and how Bear bullied you to sell it.
What's that?
Tell us about this watch and how Bear bullied you to sell it.
Actually, I didn't sell the watch. I traded it towards the 5172, only because it was just such a good deal at the time.
Right.
From what I paid for this and what I traded it for to upgrade, it was a move that had to be made.
Now, why don't you admit and tell everyone what you said about this watch?
Oh, I've said it a bunch of times. I didn't feel it was that special to keep.
What was the word that you used?
It was a little boring.
Exactly. And I agree with you. I find this watch boring. Okay, I'm not now trolling. I'm not trolling JJ. I find this whole lineup boring. I know that Archie, I seen this watch from the time when Archie was talking with Cliver about this watch. I think Cliver was considering to buy a white dial one, if I'm remembering correctly. And I just, there's something about it. I'm not liking the aesthetics of this watch.
Look, I'm going to take an unpopular opinion that I find that watch more interesting than this watch. Which is what I think everyone would not find boring, is a blue dial Sky Dweller, which is just an annual calendar. JJ's had a chronograph complication on it. This design, fluted bezel, oyster bracelet. I mean, it's like every other Rolex out there, right? Like that you can get. But when you look at that and you compare it to this, to me, yes, does it have a circular shape that's very similar to a Calatrava? Sure, it does. It's just the design of Patek. They keep it very traditional. I think that, you're not seeing a lot of people wearing chronographs around with Pateks. This is an annual calendar chronograph. I don't know whose dog was let out, but
curly. Look, I'm in my office. To
me, guys, this gray dial, just the design, I think this is picture perfect. I don't see what JJ sees, but this is the important part about it, guys. Is everybody's going to be different, and online, everyone's going to tell you don't buy this, and they're going to tell you buy this. To me, it's hey, I personally would take JJ's watch over this. I like it better. I find this design to be boring. Do I love the Sky Dweller? Yeah, I do. I think the complication was done very smartly by Rolex. But hey, if I got between the two, I'd probably go with the probably go with the annual calendar chronograph. Jason M, good friend of mine, a fellow Californian, $15. Amazing. Tam's still going strong. Time to grab a drink. Yes, we are rounding off later in the afternoon here in Canada. I've somehow gotten the bear and JJ to hop on the Watch Talk stream, which has been great because Curly's been helping me out because it's not easy to pull up the watches, make sure that I'm not pissing off John Higgins by showing a piece I'm not supposed to show, and keeping up with the chat because we want to interact with the chat as well here. So we got Ron the Shrink.
It's a very good attendance too. 70 people watching for this time of the day, and a lot of complimentary comments in the chat, guys. We appreciate that. Please remember to upvote.
I just want to jump in here for a second. Two things to rebut, not to really rebut, but just to add on. To compare the Sky Dweller is a little bit of misleading because it's like less than half the price even on the secondary right now. So it's not really in the same league, for like what you're getting value for money. But that's not the real reason why. Well, I did the trade because it was a great trade for me. But the one of the main things about that watch, it was a bit boring, I have to say. To me, traditional, you want to say. I wanted something a little more sporty, a little more modern, I guess. But the biggest killer to me was I don't wear my watches every day, and I don't keep them on a winder. So to constantly have to set that annual calendar, and I was always nervous, like, oh, am I in the right time, like to set it, or it was always just like a chore, and I didn't want another chore. That's why.
Could you wear the watch like that without setting it up?
You could, but
no. Asking, could you?
No.
Would it bother you?
Way. He's OCD, man.
It would drive me crazy. I can't even have GMT on the left side of the room in the chat.
I know. Maybe I'm the same way.
So for me, no, I can't. Like if someone asked me what time it was, or looked at the watch and it was the wrong time, it would like destroy me. I just can't have that.
I put you below me. This isn't your show, but we're gonna put you up here. So remove some of the OCD.
Left side, and my face is facing in. That's all that I care about.
All right. Look, price wise, JJ, I agree with you. Like I wasn't really comparing price wise. I was comparing like if we're talking about annual calendars, right? Like most people, when they think of an annual, like a lot of collectors these days that are just kind of just learning about Rolex are thinking of the Sky Dweller as the annual calendar. And I'm kind of comparing that, the layout of the annual calendar for me, this is an interesting layout, the way Rolex does it, the case design and everything to me, just comparing the two from a design perspective. To me, the other watch, the Patek, speaks more to me from a design perspective than this does. I do feel that this is, from afar, could look like a Datejust. And just not really special.
I don't honest. That's why I got the 5172 because the manual line chrono was that was perfect. You just picked it up, set the time, wound it up a little bit, and you were on your way. You know what I mean? That was to me was
that's a sick watch, man. I didn't know you had that watch.
That's what I traded.
72. So this is holy fuck. Look at this. Syringe hands, you got your chronograph register, okay. If it was between these two, I'd definitely go with the 5172. You made the right choice. Ron the Shrink says the Sky Dweller just complicates the design perfection of a date. Tan, pull up a rose two-tone Datejust with chocolate dot perfection. I think I addressed that, Ron. Sorry, JJ, I cut you off there. Go ahead.
Hey guys, I'm gonna bid you a great afternoon. I got some company over, and I'll talk to you guys later.
All right, we're doing a dungeon tonight.
Sure. Yeah, I'm gonna set it up in a little while.
All right.
Thank you very much, Curly.
Ciao, guys.
Ciao.
I wanted to pivot from we've been doing a lot of Patek talk. I kind of went in. I went through this topic last time, but really, really quickly. And I thought you guys are probably the best guys to have on this panel to talk about this. We had the professor on. We went through an educational discussion about economics. But I want to go through some values of pieces via watch charts, which, whether people feel that it's the most accurate or not, I'll show you guys kind of the premise of watch charts when I pull it up here. I'll share this tab. I'm not going to support these guys because Archie does not do anything for free. The watch charts, if you're not familiar with this website, you can see some values. Trends over time of pieces, and these are ask prices. And you can see when you click the points, they're actual ads on the forums, and you can see in these times there's some crazy requests and low requests, and it kind of graphs it over time from the asking price of pieces. And we're going to show a couple of pieces over time, even some that you guys might want to see as well. I started off with the Daytona. Last time I talked about hype pieces. We can go through hype pieces. We can go through a few other pieces. Looking at the Daytona specifically, this is the Panda Daytona. I'm going to zoom in here. So we're starting in August. And this is going to be in Canadian dollars, JJ. I apologize. Ask price July 24th was 45,000 Canadian. And as of right now, you're seeing ask prices about 39,000 Canadian. There's a volatility of about 10% on the watch. What's interesting is you see from August to September, it was a dip. Then it rises around Q4 and then dips again before Christmas to the point where now it's a bit flat to low, flat to slightly down on the Daytona. Maybe give you guys commentary on what was going on at that time where it rose back up and then now it's come back down, but then it's flattened. What does that mean right now that it's flattened to being slightly down, and where do you guys see this going on for the next 3 to 6 months?
If I know for sure, I know what I would do. But my feeling, my opinion on we're talking specifically this Panda Daytona, right? That's what we're talking about. The value.
We're talking about the Toyota Mo here. We're calling it the Toyota Mo, the medium legend Daytona.
To be honest with you, my plan, I'm closely monitoring this watch because I do want to buy one more or two more or three more, whatever the fuck it is. I see this watch as a great opportunity for a future growth in the value, especially when it gets discontinued, because eventually, inevitably, it will. Because it is a beautiful watch. It has been the most sought steel Rolex, a modern Rolex by far. And I don't think that you can really make a mistake even if you buy it at this point. But I do believe that it's going to follow economic developments further. And I do predict that first quarter of this year, this is going to drop down to, I'm kind of hoping for 30 to 33 Canadian. This is where I see it ending.
That's like low to mid 20s US, JJ. What do you think? Is it ever going to go that low?
I think we saw, after obviously the dip down, which was actually just back to normalization. I hate to say it was a dip. I think it's just back to where it should have been, before the jump. But you saw it go low until around Christmas time. Prices came up a little bit. And they've been kind of sitting steady. In U.S. terms, closer to 30, in the high 20s, I would say I've been seeing them listed for. I think, Bear saying, now that the holidays are done, the new quarter of the first quarter of 2023, if I had to predict, I would say it's going to go lower through tax time through the summer and pick up in the second half of the year. The only thing that would really change anything is if they remodeled it in springtime, this year for the anniversary. But I don't see that.
Exactly. So my suggestion, if anyone is chasing this watch, in all honesty, buy it probably third week of February, end of February. I think at that point we're gonna be at the lowest possible point. And you will avoid the situation that if it gets discontinued, it will dramatically jump in the value.
All right, we're gonna compare it now. We're gonna compare it now to a Bear Clooney favorite, the Meteorite Pepsi. A bit of a different graph here, guys, on the Meteorite Pepsi. So similar timeline. Instead of going down like the Daytona did, it actually appreciated in that timeline through to Q4, then took a dip down in October, went back up in November, took a dip down in December, and it's climbing back up. What do you guys think?
Well, this is a watch that has not been significantly overvalued as Daytona. I believe people have figured it out that And plus, there is not as many as Daytonas. Let's call spade a spade. Just as you're chasing your Patek in Canada, I'm chasing this watch in Canada. And the moment it shows up as available, it's gone. It's gone, right? Um, what's the price here in Canadian? I can't see.
I think it's showing 67. Is the last ask that it has in Canadian. It's a
Yeah,
converted price.
last one I seen, which was about a month ago with a friend of ours, was at 55. I told him I wanted to call. Let's pull the trigger. The time he picked up the phone and called, it was gone. So it was
Yeah,
at 55 US, and I was willing to buy it. I think this watch and there are people who actually are in industry, like for example Marco Ferrante agrees with this. Is probably best investment Rolex, modern Rolex you can buy. Remember, it's a Meteorite dial. Remember, they don't produce that many. I know for a fact that my AD had only one since it got released. I know that for a fact. I know even who got it because I tried to convince them to sell it to me. This watch is being undervalued at certain point. That's when it dipped. You see there where it dips really low. That was like what?
yeah. So 55 US is about 73 Canadian. So the last ask is, and again, this is converted from US. So this is probably a US ad showing it at 67. I could probably find it. The ad. If you go down to the last ad, 71 Canadian, 62. Yeah, it's in here somewhere. There's a few points that are there. But yeah, look, like it's still a little bit lower, but obviously that watch was probably already in Canada, so it had already been imported. New York Strike Back says it's very hard to value Meteorite Pepsi. Only a few sold at 90K. Yeah, look, like Bear said, the supply is very small on these. There are not a lot of them out there.
I'm gonna put it this way, like you said. I'm gonna say this too. If anyone has this watch for sale in Canada, I would love for you to let me know. And I will not buy this watch from US because we will get killed by duties and taxes. But if you are in Canada and you're selling this watch, let me know on Instagram, Bear Coney Watches. I am ready to pull the trigger.
JJ, what are your thoughts? We see the two different graphs between the Daytona Panda and the Meteorite Pepsi. Obviously, look different. What is your take on the difference between the two, and where you see the Panda? We got the professor here, the economics professor, as well with us here. JJ, what are your thoughts where this is going to go?
Well, first I'd say hello, Professor. Secondly,
Hello.
Buongiorno, professore.
Buongiorno, buongiorno.
So secondly, I'd like to say first with these charts, I feel like they're a little behind. I feel like they lag a little bit, right?
Always.
But I could see these two watches not following the same pattern, specifically for two reasons. One, like you guys already cited, there's a lot. They make a lot less of the Meteorite Pepsi than a Daytona. That's for sure. And I think precious metal and steel are two different things. Like throughout most of the time, precious metal were always the dogs of Rolex, right? Like the steel models always seem to hold up a lot better. This watch in particular, I happen to love. I think this is and I think a lot of people share that sentiment. So for that reason, I think this will always be a highly collectible watch. I don't see this watch dipping below retail. I feel like there's enough demand and a small enough supply that every time it gets close to retail, there's always somebody there to snag it, you know? So I think it has a safe floor if you could get it close to retail. Like I've seen a few trading for about like in certain groups who don't pay us, so we can't really promote them. So but I see them like 52, 53 US around that range.
Yeah, that's it.
That's at the lowest point though. But like, you know, I do see them also listed higher elsewhere. But it's pretty, you know, it doesn't really dip below. I've never seen one go below 50 US anywhere. You know, and if it did, then that's a major deal. I'm sure it sold like super quick, like within minutes. But
I never ever seen lowest I seen, and this was missing a link, and scratched at the lugs was a 52, 51 500. My apologies.
My basic thing is I don't see it going below retail. I think there's a safety net there, and you've seen this watch hit close to 100 at one point. I mean, are you going to get that? No, but upside of maybe 80. And don't forget another thing. When they redo that maxi case, or they stop putting Meteorite dials in the GMT, that's also another factor that could boost price on this. I'm also like Bear actively trying to grab one of these, but I'm waiting. I'm waiting through the 80 to see if that happens. So we'll see.
We got a $10 super chat from Voulez-Vous. Happy Chinese New Year, Year of the Rabbit. Thank you, Voulez-Vous.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
We have the professor here. So JJ was talking about precious metal. So we pivoted now from the Meteorite Pepsi to the date 228, 239, a flat trajectory. Did appreciate a bit October and November, which I think we saw was similar to what happened on the Meteorite. Went down through Christmas, has appreciated back. Seems to be creeping back up to kind of summer prices. Professor, if you want to give us your monologue on the market, you haven't. I thought my Patek talk would have reeled you in a couple of hours ago, but it seems like the economics talk might have reeled you in now. So the floor is yours, Professor. Give us a chat. This is precious metal Rolex. You can talk about your thoughts on the Meteorite. Let us know. The floor is yours.
Thank you. No, you also had the prosciutto watch, the Panerai.
The Panerai. Yeah, so you have been watching it. I was hoping some of this stuff will reel you in, your Professor. Like, come on.
I observe and I listen very carefully to more things than you think. So I really enjoy what was said before, and always I enjoy the company of your esteemed panelists who are there with you and those who are observing. And I also prompted General Saad to join the forces here, but it's a little bit late where he is. Look, I don't disagree at all with what was said previously. Watches is behaving like the rest of the market, more or less, give or take, right? We said that there are irregularities to pricing, there is lack of transparency, but it cannot be that stock markets and interest rates rally, stock markets rally and interest rates fall, and watch prices to disappear and continue to plummet.
Exactly.
Watches went up, and it was a bubble, and it was a bubble like a lot of other things. And
well, it was a bubble for specific watches. Like if you're talking, for example, Omega Seamaster 300, or you're talking, I don't know, I'm talking Longines Legend Diver, or you're talking like watches that are pretty much flat in their price, and they always sell approximately 20% under retail on a second, or 30% under retail on a secondary market. They don't fluctuate. Actually, to be honest with you, this day date, the day dates that are not unusual, the day dates that are very like a flat day dates, I call them. They're a perfect example of a Rolex. It doesn't fluctuate, doesn't reach the bubble, doesn't go anywhere. It's almost like a flatliner watches, I call them. So, yeah, I agree, Professor, that there was a bubble, but there was a bubble for specific brands and also specific watches from the brands. It cannot be... It cannot be compared, like you cannot compare, let's say, Datejust and Daytona situation. If you pull a Datejust, you're going to see completely different graph. So I agree with you. And then as a bigger picture, bigger picture, you will get exactly that the whole secondary market of watches will be driven without any question with financials that are much more significant and much more important than value of the watches.
Yeah, exactly. And what was interesting is that the uniqueness of this situation of the bubble is that it brought along all the other watches that Rolex, for instance, had a tough time selling in this unique period of the last 2 years. The day dates, the Datejusts, and the less demanded watches immediately got a lot of excitement. So, Air King was a forgotten watch. The OP, I would never touch it. And then suddenly they put the collars for the blind
Yes.
people. And then
Yes.
everybody started discovering the Tiffany blue,
Yeah.
the red, the yellow, and everybody got hyped and crazy. And I
Yeah,
think,
those are guys like JJ, all the hype guys, the guys who
yeah,
like to flex.
and what was interesting there is that the ADs had a party because for the
Yeah,
first time in their history, they were
yeah,
selling the garbage with the good ones, and they
yeah.
were benefiting both sides. I remember going to a Rolex AD, and the guy was telling the poor Chinese fellow, "Oh, we have Omega IWC. Why don't you start the journey from there, and then you can move here?" Or, "Oh, you want a Pepsi? Why don't you build your your history?" And I
Right.
think that was the
Or
most,
packaging with other garbage that you need to buy so you can get it. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, the diamond, the earrings, the wife, the girlfriend, the
Mm.
lover, the boyfriend, the girlfriend.
Yeah.
And this was a party, a field trip for the authorized dealers. And I think the biggest scam was the authorized dealers. These are the guys who, before, as you remember, Bear,
Mhm.
couldn't sell the Submariner at retail. There was a little bit of a discount back in the older
Absolutely.
years, meaning,
I remember getting I believe I got 20 or 25% discount on Hulk. So you're absolutely right.
yeah, nobody wanted that watch. you
Hmm.
know Nobody
Hmm.
wanted. And so the ads really got it this time, and I don't think we're going to revert to the old days. We're not going to go back again to those days where everything is plentiful. You walk in and they say, okay, this is the store, please buy what you want. I think
Professor
the
and
two,
Tan, I apologize just for 1 second. I'm
yeah,
going to be away for about 10 minutes. I have to do something in the office.
Yeah, no
I'll
problem.
most likely be back because I do enjoy this conversation, guys.
Yeah,
My
yeah, come back,
apologies.
come back, come back.
thank you
Look,
very much.
Professor, you're absolutely right. I can remember probably in
Clinic
2014,
and that.
where I purchased, I was offered a Submariner date for a 30% discount. So, these watches are, the time was different at the time. There was a comment saying, hey, funny, I think it was Mark the Sharp, I'll pull it up again. Funny part is that most in the chat thinks watches will return to their high premiums, right? Like, I think obviously no one can predict the future, and
Yeah,
what have you. But what we're trying to show here, and I know this is not perfect economics, it's not a perfect scenario. JJ is talking about it, but lagging. Like, I think, look, just from the point of time of, let's say, August to now, we're just seeing the trends of the asks on the forums, and
yeah,
Bear showed the date just, which is a similar trend to potentially the day date, where they weren't overly overpriced, and so they've stayed relatively flat. But if I pull up, like I pulled up last time, the Cermet, JJ, hopefully you're still here because I know that
Yeah,
you got
no.
rid of the Cermet for the Hulk. I'll pull up the Hulk in a second. Here's the Cermet, going for the nosedive. Um, over here, similar trajectory, for example, to we got. Look, I couldn't get this guy on the stream, but somehow your presence, Professor, brings the general to this to the.
ah, oh,
Hello, Tan,
excellent.
my man. Hello, JJ, and the professor, the best. How are you guys?
General Saad. Good to see we replaced Generalissimo with General Saad. Welcome.
Thank you so much, JJ. One thing I would like to add is that the conventional date just have somewhat very flat graph. If you can check out the 126333 reference number 10.
That's what I showed actually just now. Was the one two
Okay,
six triple three. Was this one?
the
This is
the two tone one two
the.
six triple
Oh, sorry.
three
Why did it put 126 334? Isn't 333?
three
Right?
three three. Yeah.
333. Right.
So this is the flattest graph you will see.
It's actually up a little bit.
Yeah. So, the classic, I always believe, in the longer run, you are somewhat safer on the precious metal watches because somehow, these hype watches are always a little bit tricky. uh, it's like fashion, then style, like fashion changes with time. So but these classic models, they date and date just, I have always somewhat you know flatter. You won't earn anything on these watches, but you won't lose also, you know
So Professor, just because we
Yep.
have Saad here. Oh, we got Mr. We got Z, we got A coming on.
Mr.
A,
Z.
A. We got the group here. JJ, do you want to make a comment here on the date chest? Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing. I get Saad's point. I just want to add on to it though. See, the thing is, this stays kind of flat, right, and kind of creeps up a little, which I think is his point. Like over time, it'll gradually maybe increase a little bit. The thing is, you have to buy this right, because where you take the initial hit is the beginning purchase. You know what I mean? This is what the sales on the secondary are, but are they higher in price or lower in price than your initial payment? So I would say, yeah, try to grab. Well, now it's a little different because these are pretty much selling for retail on the secondary, but you want to try to buy these right. You don't want to pay like you don't want to put up too much up front. So I would suggest if you buy this from your AD, try to package it where he will give you a sports watch, something like that to cushion it.
The sports watch, boys. The sinking ship, JJ. I'm gonna pull it up. Let's pull up the 116.
Yeah, we can get back to that tournament whenever you're ready.
Let's go to the Hulk, baby. Let's go to the Hulk. You sold your sermon, so let's go to the Hulk.
Right. I sold that when I got the Hulk. I realized
Here we go. The Hulk is not as dramatic a dip, but it's definitely going down. So JJ says buy them and get into the sports. So the sports, obviously at retail, these are much above retail, so you're not losing out.
Right. No matter how much it dips, you still have.
Yeah, you're not losing out. But if you're buying it at the high of the market, which look, I think a lot of punchers did. Mike the Snake has mentioned he's bought his watches at the high of the market, and he doesn't care, right? He's like, I don't care.
Mike, no, he does care, but he doesn't show it. He does show it sometimes when he is emotionally down. But the thing is, he has made a world record by buying the most expensive Submariner in the world. It's actually more expensive than the real Submariner that we see in the sea,
Very vicious Saad.
Well,
Professor, I couldn't get Saad. I pinged Saad. I even spoke to Saad in his native language to say, please come on the show. And Saad,
yeah, that I really love. The P that you use for us. That's so wonderful.
Yeah, Punjaban P.
Didn't Plastic pay $30,000 for the sermon?
This is Canadian dollars. So
yeah, we'll see. A third Canadian. I think he paid for the sermon when at the peak.
Ooh, shit. Yeah, they're trading like low 20s Canadian, so that's like the mid to high teens US right now for the Sermit.
I remember he bought it when it first came out for 30,000 Australian, and a week later my AD called me and I got it at retail, and I was driving him crazy with that. That's
I don't like the Sermit. Like I have the Sermit, and and I have the Hulk, and obviously the Hulk dial is stunning. Don't get me wrong, but I do like the modern proportions of the 41 millimeter. The class does not bother me at all.
That was my thing. The class was
I think when I first wore it bothered me because it was different. But after I owned a few 41 millimeters, I had the date, just standard 126 black date, as opposed to the Sermit. That's when I first got bothered by it. But when I got the Sermit, I was like, I was just so used to it that it didn't really affect me. So.
You know what it is, Ted? For me in my collection, I try not to keep too many things. So, like having both of them was so repetitive. I had to make a choice, and I'm going to send you in the WhatsApp. I'm going to send you a picture of the photo that changed my mind. I'll put it to that. The photo that made up my mind, I should say, of which one to keep. I'll send that.
That 10. Can you pinpoint when the steel sports craze started?
Off of this, you can't, because I think you have to pay for it, where you can see the absolute boom, with it. But I can see you're looking at.
What I'm asking you is, do you remember when
the Daytona
everything changed? Everything changed at the AD. Before COVID, everything changed at the AD. There were no steel sports available. It became a scarcity. of
I
steel
would say
sports. And
2017. Yeah, 2017 is where I would say.
2017. And can you put your finger on why that happened, or do you have a theory on it? Because I do.
Why don't you give us your theory, and then I'll tell you about mine.
Well, my theory is really begins with the Hulk and the Asian market. The Hulk, to this day, I think it's going to explode again in the future, in my opinion. There's no reason for any Submariner, unless it's a vintage Submariner and a rare, a rare Rolex in general, for them to be selling over retail. Back then, in 2017, they were available, and like many people have said, they got them at discounts. And then all of a sudden, there were none to be found. And I think that has something to do with the Asian market. And obviously, I think that began with the Hulk because of the green color. And then, boom, steel sports were being bought up in droves, primarily by the Asian market. And then all of a sudden, nowhere to be found. And I think you can actually pinpoint it, to the green dial sub, where that all began, that nobody wanted, as many people have spoken about. I think that's where it started. And I think that really happened before COVID and before, these crypto millionaires came out and drove the market up on everything. And all of a sudden, stainless steel watches became more valuable than gold pieces.
So,
and your thought on that?
Yeah, so also I don't disagree with you. There was obviously a huge drive from the Asian market, not just in Rolex, obviously in a lot of luxury goods, and that is one factor. I think it's a lot more than a simplistic one thing. I'll get the professor's take on this as well, because I think he has a bit deeper knowledge sometimes on the watch market than us in the armchair do. But also, I mean, that is definitely a factor. Professor, even around that time too, Rolex was also closing a lot of, and they have continued to do this, closing a lot of ADs out there. So I think the number of ADs also started to shrink. So your ability to necessarily go, and when you consolidate and you consolidate and you consolidate, it's even, you're hearing about this today where there's just going to be, the rumor is that in certain brands there's just going to be a select number of families, even in the United States, for example, that are going to control a lot of this. And as you get smaller and smaller and smaller like that, the control happens where you can really control the market, like you see in the ADs that exist today. And I'll use my city as example. I had two ADs in my city, one of which I used to frequent all the time, used to always get discounts. My family had known them for 3-4 decades. So got a great relationship with them, a personal relationship, and they lost their AD status. And this was around close to that time, a little bit before. And when I went to the other AD, the game started, right? And I remember looking for I walked in, I had my Nautilus on, I was getting the bracelet size, and I was looking at a Tudor Black Bay, and the AD's actual owner's daughter came up to me and she says, "Hey, would you like to buy this?" And I said, "Yeah, what kind of a discount can I get? This is a fucking Tudor Black Bay, the blue bezel, not even the better one." And she's like, "Well, we don't discount." And it was just I was so shocked. And this was in 2016 that this was happening, but they knew that their competition down the street was gone. And they knew that they basically owned the market in my city. So I do feel that it's also some of that consolidation of the ADs, and just losing a lot of these mom and pops that are around, and just, as it shrinks, the control over the limited supply can cause this artificial scarcity. Professor, if you want to add to that, where you feel that has been a major driver of the boom. We're starting in 2017. We're not really going to talk about the crypto and the craze of COVID and everything else, which we all know. I think everybody can talk about. But really, where do you feel was the cause of it, or one of the causes, or even multiple causes?
Okay, thank you. So obviously, demand is an important factor in all of this, and not to forget, as was said just now by Mr. Zoso, that the Chinese element or the Asian market, and it's not just China. Hong Kong is very important, and Hong Kong is not necessarily China, just to put this bluntly. So Hong Kong is a very important market, and China equally important. The markets in both of these countries were indicating since 2014 very, very high demand for heavy pieces, not the steel pieces. China was known for the demand in heavy stuff, yellow gold, the precious stones, and so forth. And as you know, when the crackdown, the corruption crackdown happened in China in 2018-19 prior to COVID, that really put a little bit of a serious dent on the demand for watches, particularly Rolex. So remember that as the world is growing, more importantly, the Asian market has become a significant player on the demand side. Having said that, the supply has not changed. And for all the rumors, you know, Patek put together in 2020 a new factory, but they haven't increased production. It was just to align certain vertical integration parts of Patek Philippe. Patek Philippe does not produce 100,000 pieces, right? Rolex the same. They talk about the factory, the new plant. Well, guess what? The new plant at best, right now, from my indications, it will come into fruition in 2031. So supply hasn't changed. And the supply for steel watches has not actually gone up. It has gone down. So you have two important factors. One is demand, which has changed dramatically the watch market, and China has a big role to play. But the Chinese didn't enter the market buying subs and hulks and Pepsis. This was the creation of the supplier. The hypeness came as a result of the anticipated noise that was created. Because remember, the Batman was in the market from when? 2011, 2012. And the Batman, immediately when it came out, had a premium. Not a significant one, but it had a premium, right? So you couldn't get it from that day on. So Rolex used that space, because this is a marketing thing, and it started creating the noise. Difficult to get, not exceptionally difficult. You could walk in and you could go to any airport, and especially the Asian ones, you could find the Batman, but you didn't need to buy the garbage and then the Batman. Right now it's completely different. You know, you need to have a cachet and then you get the Batman. You know, God, you know, changed things quite radically. So the watch market fundamentally is a very different market. And in 2017, it happened. We saw it, but it was going on. It was part of a structured way since 2011, 2012. Tudor didn't come into this just by sheer miracle. The plan to elevate Tudor was a 10-year plan. And the consolidation that Tanzil you mentioned is part and parcel of a 20-year strategy for Rolex to acquire more and more of the authorized dealers. The ones that got discontinued, it's the sheer factor they were either small, couldn't sell, or they did a lot of nasty stuff and they were discovered, right? Already Rolex has a huge plethora of ADs. I mean, it's more than 1,800 right now. And Patek, by the way, is doing exactly the same thing. Patek wants to consolidate. They're not issuing new licenses. They're not granting authorized dealerships, and they're cutting down dramatically. And they want to make it even more difficult to get even a leather band from Patek, right? So that's how the market is shifting. And so Rolex had a strategy from the very beginning. I'll give an example. The Italian presence of Rolex is not through authorized dealers. It's Rolex SA, Société Anonyme, that owns all the Italian Rolex presence. They do it, of course, through outlets, but the big mothership is owned by Rolex SA. The same for other markets, and they want to move into that because they have greater control. And yes, they're making lumpy attempts to get into the certified secondhand market, but eventually, remember, Rolex thinks 30 years ahead. In 30 years from now, they will want to control a segment of the secondary market, right? And they go through the trusted side of Bucherer, which is, their cousins, in effect, in Europe.
Right.
So
Right.
consolidation will continue to happen, and it will, now we're getting into the next 20 years, which is you will not be able to get access to any of these watches. It will become exceptionally difficult, even for the day dates. You will be thankful that you're spending 50,000, 60,000 to get a piece because there is more demand. There are more people around. So look at how many billionaires and millionaires exist in China. Just the sheerness of that market. And I send you in the private chat, and you can show the graph where it segments the market for Swiss watch exporters. And you can see how important the American market is, and equally how important is China. And this number is as of November, where China hasn't opened yet. So imagine what happens when China opens, right? I don't believe that the watch market is just going to go back to where it was in 6 months. There's no mean reversion, right? We're not going to revert to the mean. What's the mean? That's it doesn't exist. Stock prices are not going to go back to where we were 2 years ago. It's going to take time because interest rates will stay high and so forth. And if the Fed screws up and they start lowering rates, we could go back to higher inflation. And then again, they panic, they increase rates, markets go down. 2023 is going to be a lot of hodgepodge of, volatility and so forth. But this basically tells you the Asian market is very important. Hong Kong is very important and so forth. So, there is something else that structurally happened to the watch market. Traditionally, UK, Germany, Europe, Italy, they're all crazy about Rolex. You cannot be a proper Italian without having one Rolex piece, right? And in the 80s, it was the Italians who saved Rolex during the quartz years. And America, which dominates. It's a very important market, right? So anyway, I agree with what was said, more or less. And I think Rolex has a strategy to consolidate and to control more and more.
Well, one thing that happened, Professor, that Rolex was not prepared for, and that they're kind of scrambling now to figure out. And you're right. They have a retail partner that can handle this for them, and they'll be able to figure it out together. But the trickle down effect on the pre-owned market was incredible, and that really only took place in the last 3 years. And it's beyond the steel sports. It affected everything that they make. Now, a lot of people don't realize, they're faking the amount of watches they're making. Rolex makes 1 million watches a year. Well, yeah, they produce, I don't know how many, somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million watches a year, but they're not all the same model. And Rolex has a huge catalog of pieces that they make for women and men, and they make jewelry. They make and when I say jewelry, obviously I mean watches. But there's a tremendous amount of models that they make, and that 500,000 million is shrunk down into a very small number when it's the desired piece, when it's the Pepsi, when it's the Meteorite, when it's the Daytona, the hype watches. But anyway, getting back to the point I was originally trying to make, all of a sudden, 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, you could buy on the secondary market a two-tone Daytona for under $10,000. They were trading somewhere around the $8,500 range and readily available. Zenith Daytonas were a fantastic buy, for investment, but that a lot of the great dealers at that time were telling you, buy this watch, it's going to go up. This is going to be a rare piece. They didn't produce that many of them. This is going to be something that's going to be special. And I think they just about quadrupled in price since then, maybe even a little higher if you buy the right one. So they weren't prepared for that. Seems like their retail partner Bucherer were, and it seems like they want to get into that business now. And that's an interesting thing. I don't know what's going to happen there, and I don't know how that's going to affect the new market. But it's interesting to see what's happening now, because what happened was unpredictable. You could not have predicted what happened as far as the pre-owned market. And now we're starting to see the gold pieces come down dramatically. You're able to buy a lot of the gold pieces under retail or at retail on the secondary market, not including tax. So are they a good buy now, or are we going to revert back to 3 years ago where you could buy them for thousands of dollars less than retail? I don't know. Can't predict the future, but it is interesting what's happening.
We have a super chat here from Bud the Stud, good friend of the channel. Good to see you, Bud. $4.99 US. I've spoken to a half a dozen ADs, and the certified program is not something they seem to want or care about. What is the panel's thoughts on the certified pre-owned program? Do they want or care about it? Do you guys think they don't? What do you guys think?
The certified market is just the beginning of Rolex's involvement in the certified market. They need to be part of the game, but it's not going to do much. It's not going to make a big dent in the secondary market because it's bigger right now than what they thought. The secondary market, in terms of value, it's about 28 to 32 billion euros. This is not a small market that you can control with Bucherer in 3 countries, right? Because initially they're doing it in 3 countries: Germany, Switzerland, Austria. So that, doesn't help a lot. But again, it's part of a vision. It's part of something that they want to get involved in the next 20 years. And Rolex moves in like an elephant, slowly but surely. That's something that I wanted to say. The other thing is that I do believe that, as was said earlier, I don't think production is going to change much. The new plant will not add production, despite what everybody says. It's just going to add to refining certain segments of the vertical integration of the several factories that they have. But it's not to their advantage to increase production massively. People will be wrong. And remember, last year people were saying, one of the general things, this correction is just a correction. It went down by 10%, it's a correction. 20%, it's a correction. Actually in stocks, 20% is a crash, anything above 20%. So a lot of these pieces have gone more than 20% down. So it is a crash. I mean, it's fine to say it. The thing is, when does it go up? And as I said before, we don't know when it goes up and how long it takes time. GE stock hasn't gone up since the early 2000s, right? So it's a function of liquidity. It's a function of appetite. The hype pieces, yes, they're still hype, but it doesn't mean that in a year's time they're going to go back to where they were before. There are certain economic fundamentals that are happening to what we are all experiencing. And the biggest of all is liquidity and interest rates. There is something fundamentally different now, but still you have people with money and you still see demand, but supply is more than demand. And that's why you see a decline. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on Bud's thing here is also just before you do. Let's kind of look at Rolex pre-boom and post-boom when it comes to their view of the gray market. So pre-boom, if you guys remember, for those that were talking back then, Rolex was, they were really hammering down on their ADs to not dump their stock. And, you'd see on, David SW and other gray market dealers, you'd find great prices. Rolex is selling under retail. We'd see Submariners, GMTs, everything. Rolex hated that, right? As a luxury brand, it's not a good look for them to have their pieces that they're selling at retail selling for 30% less on the secondary market for brand new pieces. So they were really hammering down on the gray market. If we fast forward now to 2023, they want a piece of the gray market, right? They see that their prices have, had a massive inflation compared to retail, and people are, they're conceptualizing that Rolex is trying to get a share of that market, and maybe they are looking to get a taste of that market because they're like selling their pieces at retail. They're losing out on some money. Their ADs are probably sitting like they're thinking the same thing, because the ADs themselves, the way the AD market works with Rolex is they have to buy whatever Rolex sends them. And obviously they've got angry customers that are out there saying, I can't get a Rolex. You're seeing this in the chat. I can't get a Rolex. So Rolex is probably trying to take a share of that market now. So it's interesting to see the difference between the two, because, in the past it was just, a definite, hatred for the to now being the gray market is or the secondary market is a piece of the pie that they want to get. So if you want to go, I just wanted to make that comment. To Bud Super. Go ahead. You can definitely respond.
Well, I agree with the professor to a degree. I mean, it is a move for the future. Rolex is moving very slowly. All they did was piss the dealers off, because you can't certify a piece unless it's 3 years old. And you could walk into a Bucherer after a year. I mean, that's kind of their unwritten rule, that you need to own the watch for a year, and it's unwritten. It's not written in stone, where you could trade it in and you could actually profit from it. They're okay with paying you at market value after a year. So this really wasn't a takeover at this point. It was more for the future. I have no idea. They're always ahead of the game. I agree with that philosophy, but it's hard to figure out, business-wise in today's market, that it was a bad move, in my opinion. They put too many restrictions on it, and they actually hurt Bucherer in the at least in the short game. In the long run, I don't know. Will it stabilize the pre-owned market? Because the pre-owned market was very unstable for a long.
Whoop, I think it's also logged off. JJ, you're there. You just got the call from the AD for the Cellini. How did it go?
Oh, no, he just called me, actually. It was for a Pepsi on Oyster.
Let's go, man.
No,
buying or what?
No, it was just one of my friends.
So I have your pieces up. We had that super chat from Bud JJ on the CPO program. If you want to have a look, he's saying that the ADs really, just don't seem to want or care about the CPO program. What are you hearing out in New York? What are your thoughts?
Both ADs that I go to in New York and New Jersey area haven't been. They know nothing about it yet. It's like infancy stages. They're not even thinking about it.
Bud says, I've traded several watches back to my AD, and they will always pay at least what I paid in full, but never more than I paid, meaning like they're not trying to pay market prices. That makes sense. Look, AD's got to make a margin. They have overhead. There's obviously going to be, some margin play is going to happen. You're going to have the same at a gray dealer. We did pull up your two pieces here, JJ. You had to go, but I pulled them back up. We got the Cermet. We got the Hulk. Talk to us about these. You flicked the Cermet. Talk to us about why you flicked it and why you kept the Hulk.
Well, when the Cermet came out, before I had it in hand, I loved everything about it. I was like, all right, it's not as green. You just get the little splash in the bezel. I feel it'll be much more wearable. You got the thinner lugs, the more a little bit wider bracelet to make it more streamlined. Everything on paper sounded great. So I was really hot for that watch. So I expressed interest, in my AD that I really, really wanted it. This is when it first was coming out, and I got it right away. I don't know if you remember, but I got it right after it came out, and I liked it a lot. but it didn't scratch the itch for the Hulk. I've been wanting to get a Hulk. And prices were really getting crazy. I said, this is when it went up to like it was like around 14, then it started going up towards like 20. I said, I got to get this watch before I make a mistake and it gets too far gone where I can't get one, which I did. And then I said, if it hits 30, I'll sell it because that's going to be too crazy, right? Then when I got it, that's when I took this picture. I just said, oh, this is such a more, to me, it's a more special watch. Like everything about it, just having the dial just makes all the difference. It really just pops. That's why I took this picture. But also, I kind of like the beefier lugs and the smaller bracelet, which for two different reasons. The bracelet on the Cermet, when I first got it, the one thing it was bugging me was the thickness and the bigness of the clasp. It was cumbersome. It took me a while to get used to it. Once I got the Hulk, I was like, oh, this is so much more comfortable. Plus, I just liked the way it looked aesthetically. It was more pleasing. And I kind of like the beefier lugs, at least for this model, because, like a Hulk is supposed to be like kind of like stocky and like a beefy watch. I don't know. To me, it all made sense once I got it. And I knew there was no reason to keep the Cermet. It was just, they're two alike. So that's when I wound up selling the Cermet, which I got really, really good money for. So it kind of like, I paid high for the Hulk. I think I paid around 20, but it pretty much was like I got it at retail because, I got the Cermet at retail and I just sold that to replace it,
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was describing earlier was I really enjoyed the super case of the 40, and then they go to the 41 and they slim it down because look, the super case was not very popular. There was a huge movement from collectors that just were not fans of the super case, and it really, Rolex really listened to the market and slimmed it down, but obviously, at the expense of a 21 millimeter bracelet, chunkier clasp, the things that people are not they're not into, or that they have a bit of a beef with.
Tanzil, let me say something. They don't really listen. You
go
think
ahead.
they listen, but they don't listen. It has to do with manufacturing processes. There are certain things that have to be done to enhance the efficiency of the production. So the bracelet was enlarged because it required enlargement for the other pieces, like the deep sea, which looked like a disproportionate watch, right? And so that was installed for that purpose as well. Because remember, the benefit with a lot of these watches that they just change the bezel, and they put the Pepsi, the Batman, they call it whatever, and people go crazy. But in reality, this is part of the vertical integration of the manufacturing process that makes Rolex so efficient, more so than any other watchmaker.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that but again, right? Like you look at
But they don't listen. They don't listen. They
you look at
don't
the
sit there.
Yeah, but like on the case specifically, I don't think it would apply, right? The Deep Sea has a different case than than this does. For example,
GMT is different. GMT
yeah,
is
not the
different.
GMT,
Yes.
the Deep Sea. The Deep Sea has a different case than this one.
Yeah, but the bracelet had to be changed because
Yeah,
the
and maybe
original
and I
one
don't
was
agree that
exactly.
Yeah, go
They
ahead.
took it from the Submariner and put it on the Deep Sea, and the original one was like you were wearing I don't know, a saucepan with a little G string as a bracelet, and it looked completely odd.
And I don't think the
Hey,
bracelet was
JJ,
ever.
JJ, do you feel like the your Hulk wears bigger than the Cermet?
No way. We're smaller.
It wears smaller.
Yeah.
I won't. I have a Cermet and I never wear it. I don't like it. So I'd rather have the Hulk. So I'm pretty much going to go down the same road you did. I'm going to wind up selling my Cermet and picking up a Hulk because I like to wear my watches, And if I can't wear it, I don't want it.
So
the
what I
thing
was
is this.
saying was, sorry, JJ. What I was saying was, like the case specifically was the part that a lot of the collectors were not too pleased about with the super case. There was no real beef with the bracelet. There was no real beef with the clasp. Do I disagree that vertical integration played a part? No. I do that makes absolute sense. But I do think in the case design, the lugs, they were slimmed down. There was definitely and look, they had this change, with the Datejust 2, the Date 2 to the move to the Datejust 41, the Date 40, and whatnot, which probably follows the exact same principles that are out there in terms of vertical integration and whatnot. I think the major point here is, and kind of what Zoso was talking about was, how does he enjoy it? Does he prefer, like, to me, the dial is the big piece of the Hulk, in comparison to the Cermet. Cermet's just a regular, regular Submariner dial. The Hulk is a very unique dial to it that is specific to that watch. And, arguably whether they're going to return to that, I think they will. I think that there's a missed opportunity if they don't. But there's an absolute reason why people would be looking at this piece as opposed to the Cermet, and there's a reason why this piece has gone up in value. Hands, Knees, and Toes says that pop-tastic thing is that dial. Absolutely right. I think this is probably what got JJ mesmerized, by that, even though it may wear, as a different piece, a different size piece to him, and he prefers it that way, right? I don't know if you guys had any other comments between the Cermet and the Hulk.
The dial makes it a more special watch. Nobody does green like Rolex, and it's like their color. So that's kind of, to me, a cool representation of the watch to have. But to answer Zoso's question just a little more specifically, the head of the watch kind of wears similar. You got the chunkier lugs a little bit, but these are minor differences, right? The real difference in wear comes into the bracelet, I think. I don't know if Tan agrees. I mean, maybe it doesn't bug you as much. Maybe you have a larger wrist or whatever, but the thickness and the length of the clasp was something that just it didn't bother me. It didn't irritate me. It was fine, but it definitely is not as comfortable as the Hulk one, in my opinion. Everyone has a different wrist, different experience.
I wanted to pivot.
I'm definitely getting the Hulk. I'm definitely getting it.
No, so you need to get the 5130 Platinum before the Hulk, for fuck's sakes, man. Like, don't listen to Bear. Don't listen to the fanboys. You got enough Daytonas, man. Just flick one of them. I want to pivot back because JJ, you weren't on the call at the time, and neither was Professor. I was going through Hodinkie's predictions for 2023, and this was the interesting one to me. Was the Holy Trinity refocuses on steel. They're showing a Vacheron 222 vintage on steel. Professor, obviously, you have a lot of experience in the watch market. Maybe give your take on steel in 2023. So the Vacheron 222 is a precious metal piece in gold right now. The Nautilus has gone to precious metal in the 5811, not steel anymore. Do you think that the Holy Trinity, and we're talking AP, Vacheron, and AP's not, I don't think AP is going to matter. They're already in steel, but let's say Vacheron and Patek. Do you think that they're going to focus on steel in 2023, or do you think they're just going to go as they go? Typical Swiss market where they just choose to do whatever the heck they want to do. Maybe Professor, why don't you start?
Who owns Hodinkee? Hello?
Sorry?
Who owns Hodinkee?
I don't know.
LVMH.
He's saying they get the inside scoop.
No. I'm saying that none of these guys.
Well, that's the thing.
They all have a conflict. They all have a conflict of interest.
None of them own, because LVMH does not own Patek, does not own, Vacheron and stuff like that. So,
you see what I'm saying.
So you feel that this is an LVMH play to really?
No, nothing is neutral in this world. I'm just highlighting the fact that they're also owned by one of the big boys. So there is no neutrality in this market.
The neutrality piece is I think outside of the I guess where I don't want to focus is the reason for the article, and more so around, because the Trinity has changed, right? This is common. Oh, here we go. We've got a special guest here, guys. From bed, live from bed.
Look at this naked Archie.
We've been going 3 hours here. You You say it's hard. It's hard to do 3-hour shows. It's hard. We've been going 3 hours and we're still going here, Archie. What's happening?
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Arch,
We are
Ken
on the
hasn't
top.
taken a toilet break yet.
I haven't taken a toilet break. I've been going for 3 hours. You know, we're talking about in 2023. Do you think the Holy Trinity is going to refocus to steel? Do you think the Vacheron 222 is going to go steel? Do you think the Nautilus is going to go steel? We got the professor on the line. This is a Hodinkee article. The professor said, hey, LVMH owns Hodinkee, so there's no neutrality in saying this statement.
Yes.
What does the Pontiff think of what's going to happen with the Holy Trinity? Do you think they're going to go focus on steel in 2023?
I hope so. Because you can't afford gold. Gold is so expensive.
Yeah, but steel will become even more unobtainium, right? Like, I think that's also the fact. Like the 222 is, even though it's 60,000 US, call it, and you're saying it's unobtainium from the price point, but a steel 222 could even become even more unobtainium, or a steel Nautilus, right? A 6711 or 6811 could also become unobtainium. The question is that do you think that they're going to focus on steel because they've moved away from it? They've opened up more precious metals, or do you think they're going to keep going down the road of precious metals?
Look, I think it depends how desperate they are for sales. Depends how desperate they are for sales.
I think Vacheron is definitely going to come out with a 222 in steel. It's only natural. That's how the watch was when they first made it. They reintroduced it. They reintroduced it in gold, and now it's time to come out with the silver. They're doing the Rolex like they did with the gold.
JJ, would they bring out a two-tone?
I don't think so. Maybe down the line, but I don't think so.
Because the truth is, they want to get some sales. They got to get some sales. You know what I mean? Look at what Richmond did to Lange. Lange needed the Odysseus. That watch didn't exist. They said, right, we need a sports watch. It needs a steel bracelet. It needs everything. You know what I mean?
And guys in the chat, if you want to abuse Archie in bed naked, feel free to super chat. We've had some good super chats today. I think I've made more than your morning show did in Australian time. So if you guys want to abuse the Pontiff before he puts his shirt on, feel free to super chat.
$20 super chat gets you a nip slip.
Ross Rachel Brady says, looking sexy, Archie.
How you guys been? That's fantastic. You guys love chatting watches.
Yeah, we had a lot of people on there. We had Bear Clooney on. We had Curly on. We had
How is Ben? Is he okay?
Yeah, no, he's good. He's good. We've had good watch chat. JJ's been on. Professor's been on. Saad's been on. We've got 70 people watching you rub your nipples in bed. Getting ready for the evening show. This is coming up in an hour and a half. And we're just going from different topics. We talked about Patek. We talked about the Rolex market. We talked about hype pieces. We don't just talk about a hype baby on my show. So,
Tanzil, you see my point when you ask me about this article. I'm just trying to highlight to everybody that there are no honest brokers in this, right? Hodinkee.
Professor, the same thing you can say about Watchfinder. They're not honest.
Yes, of course.
They're not independent anymore because
they're owned by Richemont.
And you know what?
Of course.
Love my Pontiff Bear Clooney, $10 Californian. Thank you so much there. The interesting thing is, did you know they actually got angry at me where they listed YouTube channels? They left me off because I said this point over and over again. They can't be independent.
Yes.
You got another super chat here.
AD never calling $10. Ken, will you do a poll? Sleep with shirt, sleep without shirt, need to know. Thank you.
Only Archie can do the poll. He has the keys to the channel. I don't have the keys to the channel.
Oh, I got to wake up and go to my other room. I got to wake up and do that. We can run that this morning on my show.
Yes, sir.
Do you feel like when you sleep with a t-shirt, it strangles you if you roll around?
Yeah, I don't like to sleep with any. I like the freedom.
Me too.
I mean, we're adults, okay?
So you said Richemont got mad at you? Can you elaborate on that?
Well, the thing is, they don't like you to destroy their narrative. The narrative is, if they are owned by a conglomerate, they're not going to say anti things about the conglomerate, are they? And I actually had a go at them because they were, I don't know if you remember, Watchfinder was really attacking Rolex. They were saying these super fakes and da-da-da-da. They never came out and said Rolex sucks, but they were pushing the envelope. That's because they're trying to push their own brands. And they never spoke about Panerai super fakes and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Of course. And we actually talked about Panerai earlier, where somebody asked, do you think Panerai is doing a good job post 2018? And I kind of laid it in on the Panerai Due, where I'm like, you're using this design of a diver, you know, with the crown guards and everything else on a watch that's 30 meters water resistant. Like, the fuck is going on here? I think that, look, again, it's not so much about the narrative that I don't really care about who owns Hodinkee, and I know it's important to think about that, but you know, the question.
No, and also, you know, Hodinkee owns acquired Crown and Caliber.
Yeah, I think that was a while ago that they.
Yeah,
it was not a while ago.
2021. So you see the synergies and the conflict, and you know, it's not. So the honest opinion is not that honest, right? There is an interest.
Well, it's not dishonest. It's not lying, but it's not independent. That's the problem.
It's not independent.
Hey Archie, while you're here, just to pivot real quick, there was a question, a super chatted question here on this watch, and I actually hadn't seen this piece. It's an annual calendar. It's a 49471A.
Oh yes, this is the unisex one.
Yeah, it's 38 millimeters.
Yes, yeah, amazing piece. It's an I know that. Yes, beautiful.
Higgins was hating on the sub-register of the 3 eyes, which is similar to closer to the 5035 or the 5146. But the question was that, you know, should he buy this on the secondary market or should he buy it for retail? I don't think you're going to be able to find this on the secondary market.
Look, it's a fantastic watch because it's actually bigger than a 5035. It's steel case, steel bracelet. It's also got they've done a few things to tweak it a bit. It's got that beautiful blue dial, textured dial. It's got one of the 5035 looked a bit ancient with the Romans, this using Arabics. This watch here, it came out a couple of years ago. I remember when they launched it. It was kind of like a unisex watch.
Yeah, it's 38 millimeters. Like I'd be surprised if they pitched this to being unisex. It's not small.
No, but that's how they launched it, because the reference code, it's not
it's women's. Yes, it's women's.
No, well, it's unis. You know what I mean? Like with Patek, if you look at Patek from the 70s, they started with a 2.5. Then in the 80s, it was a 3. Right, like this is their numbering system. Then in the 2000s, it went to 5, like 5107, 5127. Then we've gone to the 6s. You see what I mean?
Yeah, it is in the women's. So someone's saying it's in the women's watch catalog, right? Just like you said, the AP midsize, the 15 or the 450 is the. You said you would never buy that because it was in the women's catalog. Of AP, but that's why I'd never seen this watch. I guess I just don't look in the women's catalog. I want to give you a shock though, Archie. A friend of the channel, a great viewer, traded this watch for an IWC. I need you to get your thoughts on you know, whether you would do that deal.
Oh, that's lunacy. Why would you do that?
I know. He's on the panel actually. You can tell by that tattoo. I don't think Professor has tattoos, so.
Did you have one of those? I didn't know you had one of those.
The 5960p. What are you talking about? Of course you know I had that.
Yeah, no, 5960p is a. No, but you traded the 5960p for a 5172.
Right. Right. We're playing a bit of a gag. We're playing a bit of a gag in the morning.
Yes. Yeah.
Ted's making fun of my Patek experiences.
Look, I tell you what, it's better to have loved and lost than to have never had it all. You know what I mean?
No, come on, Archie. I would take a 5172 over this. Like, I don't know. Would you keep the annual calendar chrono, or would you go with the Patek 5172?
Oh, 5172. It's a much. It's an incredible watch, the 5172.
Manual
The
one
syringe
chronograph,
hands.
man. Patek is all
Look at
about the
that.
manual
Look
one
at that.
chronograph.
Look at that.
This is what they do. This is Patek DNA to the end, you know.
Right.
But
you know, I could get this watch back, Arch, for 50.
look, 50 is still a lot of money. You know what I mean? 50 is a lot of money in this market. The thing is, I don't know if you need it, JJ.
No, I know, but what were you saying? Why would you sell it? And now you know why. You know why?
No. I was too emotionally attached before. Like, I think I'm a changed person now, okay? I look at these things and realize, you know what? We're not going to... Sometimes you can't keep the things you love forever. You think you could have it forever, but there is no forever. We've only got a small lease. Look, if I was a Beamer at my age, right? I got 120,000 miles on the clock. Okay?
Got a super chat here, Archie.
Here we go. Bear Clooney, $2. AC3. Who is Moki? Mookie. I've heard that name. Who's Mookie?
There's a clip of you saying who's Mookie.
Watches.
Look, Mookie is Watch Nicholas's friend that helps him with his channel, does all the videos, clips from the tech work.
Archie, I'm going to show you a competitor to this watch, okay? A competitor. So we got the only thing I think people may not like is the syringe hands. I'm going to show you which one would you take? Would you take that one or this one?
Oh, that's the 5170, is it?
Yep, G, Breguet numerals, different hands, black dial. What are you taking? You got this one or you got this one?
Look, you know what? Those are both beautiful. Depends on the deal. They're both amazing watches. And even a 5070, you know, the 5070, that's the one before that. Those three references, 5070, 5170, 5172, are fucking incredible references. Incredible.
A little bit more sporty, you know, looking than the other one, even with the syringe hands. I think it's still more sporty.
I'll be honest with you. I love when I saw the blue dial with those Arabics, I fell in love with the 5172 immediately. But the problem is the chance of me getting one, they're faking it. Look, let me just clarify this to you guys, okay? My budget is 5196, not 5172.
5196. 5196. Let me show you the 5196 that you should get because you are the pontiff. It's the one right here.
It's the platinum one.
Come on, you know this is the one to get. And even if not this one, I don't know why you don't like this one. The rose. Like this is stunning, man. Like look at that.
It's incredible.
Toyota Mo is a man who knows what it is. The 5212 is the weekly counter. This one I'm hunting down. If you're in Canada and you have one, sell it to me, please. Okay, cool says syringe hands are easier to read, but it might just be the images you show. So yeah, look, it's Hans Knees and Toes says 5107 or 5127, Archie. 5107, 5127.
Ooh, sorry, what's that again? 50?
107 or 5127.
You know what? I think the 5107 was nicer. The smooth bezel, I think, is nicer.
So we got a comment in the chat asking to compare this to a Lange 1815 chronograph. Let me pull up a Lange 1815 chronograph and see Archie's take. Fuck's sakes. Here we go. Share this tab.
Beautiful.
What are you taking? Are you taking the 5172 or the 1815 chronograph?
Actually, you know what? That's a very interesting discussion. I had a friend of mine, Ronnie from Vintage Watch Co. He owned that. He had an 1815 chronograph, right? And he's also owned a 5070 at one stage, right?
Yeah.
And I said to him, what's the better watch? And he said to me, the Patek is probably a better watch, but he said the pusher action is nicer on the Lange.
The boutique edition is beautiful. This watch too. You ever see the boutique edition with the blue?
I haven't seen it in real life, but I know the one you're talking about.
I love that one. Oh,
But
that's what
I
you
got
pulled
to
up.
tell you honestly, those Lange 1815s, they're not cheap anymore. They were substantially cheaper than the Patek equivalents. You know.
Yeah, these are couple years ago. You could get these at a deal. These are like, forget it, double the price.
Yeah. I actually prefer this to the Datograph.
Mm-hmm. So do I.
Professor's nodding. I don't know if Professor's nodding to us or he's nodding to his family, but he's nodding.
I'm nodding because yes, you're talking about the dream watches, the watches of myths for ordinary people. Unless you're millionaires, you forget these watches. You look at them only on pictures and the web.
You know, if you were on a shoestring budget and love this style, Longines make a couple of really good options.
Oh my God.
Similar
You
to
can't say that. It looks the same, but come on, it's not the
but
same.
yeah, but
No,
of
you
course,
don't
but
buy.
you're paying
You don't buy.
$2,000, not 85.
That's like saying I can buy an i30 Hyundai that looks like a
Yeah.
CLS Mercedes.
Right. But if you have $2,000 to spend, it's not a bad option. You know, if you're not in the $85,000 category for a watch, you know.
No, I mean, in order to spend 85 on a watch, your income cannot be 100.
Right.
As I said, you know, so you need to be you need to have a cash flow of a certain kind, preferably for an $80,000 watch. You need to be with an annual cash flow of at least 800,000 to $1 million, unless you save all your life, plus, you know, what it takes to maintain. And you're not going to have one watch, right? You're going to have several of these watches. Nobody buys one Patek.
What do you guys think of the Corne de Vache? These
Oh,
lives
that's
on
beautiful. You know, they are they're just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
The one you pull up in particular it's funny you pull this one up because most people pull up the steel reference. I think this yellow gold one is best bang per buck. I mean, it's a few thousand more than the steel, and you're getting a precious metal piece. Plus, I think it's really cool. Something Vacheron doesn't really do it often, I don't think. The blue seconds hand and the bluing in the dial on a precious metal piece makes it like extra sporty. I don't know. To me, I would just change the strap out to something maybe like a navy blue and really sport this up a little bit. A little small though, this piece, right? But I guess it's good.
Let me just finish the Holy Trinity here for Archie.
Sure.
So we're looking at the Trinity plus Vacheron. Here's we got the code 1159 chronograph. Do you think not in the same league as these other chronographs? What do you think here? This is the code 1159.
Yeah, I don't think it's in the same league. I'm sorry. You know, AP doesn't do chronographs quite the same as Patek and Lange. And the other thing AP doesn't do well is world times.
So you wanted, so by the way, Professor, Archie kicked AP out of the Holy Trinity yesterday, and he brought Breguet into the Holy Trinity. He kicked AP out, much to my chagrin, because I'm wearing this AP right now, guys, the Royal Oak. He's kicked me out.
Yeah, AP is a one-trick pony watch, and they have an identity crisis. Thank God there was one guy who helped them revive the nearly bankrupt watch manufacturer in the 1970s. So, yeah.
I really like their perpetual calendar code, the Aventurine dial, and their star wheel.
Well,
I like some of
at
those.
that level, you know, I would bring your attention to Vacheron. And back in 2005, they produced one type, the watch, is it Les Îles something in commemoration of their 250 years anniversary. today, you know.
Hey guys, I better get a quick shower and get ready for the show, okay?
Just one last thing before you go. You kicked them out of the. You kicked AP out, but you brought these guys in. What do you think of the Marine chronograph?
What? Oh,
The Marine
that's,
chronograph. You know what? I actually, to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of I don't like divers with chronos, okay? I never really liked that combo.
I think they got this one wrong. Really
yeah,
wrong.
I tend to agree with Professor. I think the Marine is kind of they've got some beautiful models there. The more simpler, the better in the Marine.
The simpler, the better. All right, guys. I'm actually going to end this show in 5 minutes. Archie's got to go. We're going to be on in 1 hour because I got to charge my AirPods because they died earlier.
And just 10 for
Thank you.
Do you think like I don't think it's a fair comparison to use the Marine, but what about like the Breguet Classique chronograph, like the 52?
Yes, that's a exactly. JJ, you hit it on the head. That's what you got to compare.
5247, something like that, you know.
Yeah. That's exactly
it's much more high end, much than a Marine, you know. If you want to talk about Trinity entrances or something, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at.
You're looking at current catalogs, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna shoot off. I'll be back. I'll be back in an hour's time.
I think Breguet is one of the most understated watch manufacturers. Very little hype, and the chronographs are fantastic.
I'm trying to find one here. I looked in the complications, but I didn't find it. Maybe it's here. Nope, it's not a chronograph.
I mean, you could type in like 5247 or something like that, and one should come up. I mean,
What do you think, boys?
Interesting watch. I don't like that exactly. Like,
come on, man. 5172 all day long. Come on. Looking at this. Looking at this.
Yeah, but this is not really the best. You didn't pick the best.
You told me to pick this one. You got to pick the best one.
Yeah, hold on. Let me send you. Yeah, but that's not the one I was thinking of. That's a different.
Come on, JJ. Like, I'm gonna show this again here. Come on. Come on. Like, it's not even close, man.
No, I don't think it's close, but it's more comparable.
Archie kicked AP out of the Trinity. I'm triggered right now. I'm triggered.
Let me ask you: would you wear this watch until every day?
The 5172.
Yeah.
Design-wise, I think I would.
No.
I think
realistically every day.
I don't think I'd wear it every day. It's a chronograph. It's not. I mean, there's other Pateks I would wear every day.
It's the link.
The 5212 I'd wear every day. It's a steel watch, 40 millimeters. This one in white gold I wouldn't. Could it be worn more frequently than just a special occasion watch? Yeah, absolutely. You could probably wear this as a weekend watch if you're very careful. But it's not something I'd really be seeking on a daily basis. Sorry, you said something else for us, JJ?
Yeah.
All right, European. What's up? Let's pull up JJ's. Come on, JJ. What the fuck are you showing us here, man? This is what JJ would take over the 5170.
No, I didn't say it would take it over. I just said this is more comparable than pulling up a Breguet Marine. That's all. I wouldn't take this over that. There's no way. I'm just saying this is more comparable. This is.
Oh my God, we pulled money out of Ron the Shrink. Ron the Shrink's he's trying to pay back his medical scheme loans, but he's still giving us $2 here. The real Vacheron, Patek, and Longines.
That's crazy. Hard to say.
The Holy Trinity without hyped watches.
Yeah, I mean, Patek has some hyped watches. Vacheron has hyped watches. Vacheron
is all about hyped watches. There is nothing unhyped about FPJ, right?
Yeah, they're most hyped watches. Is right here. I'm gonna pull it up.
6 years ago, nobody knew who they were.
Oh, I had an opportunity to buy this watch. Like Don Haynes actually connected me with an AD, and it was like it was for MSRP. I had to wait a year because they don't make a lot of these. And I actually I turned it down at the time, which was fucking stupid.
Yeah.
This is the watch in tantalum, the Chronomètre Bleu. Not everybody's favorite. Some people like the Havana. That's out there, the Havana. I prefer the blue to the Havana, to be honest with you, but some people love the Havana. It's the Havana dial.
So,
But yeah,
guys,
Vacheron is. But
let me ask you, what's the next hyped watch?
JJ, the next hype watch. You talk a lot more hype watches than I do. So
That's
Forget about the economy going up, going down. What's the next one that you guys think? Don't tell me Meteorite GMT.
Just give me 1 second, guys. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Yeah, let him go. And you know what? Like, I don't think there's a couple of rumors, but I don't think it's going to be anything from Omega. Like, we talked about the MoonSwatch Snoopy. If that comes out,
No,
that'll
Omega,
be no matter what, right? That'll be hyped no matter what. But if I'm talking about an unhyped watch that could become hyped, we were talking about this earlier. We were talking about if they revamp the Milgauss to be titanium, to be an aesthetic that maybe a little bit more retro to the original. I could see that one taking off because the Milgauss needs to be updated. It's not competitive to the Metas certified movements. It's a Rolex. But if they update the design to what I had described earlier, and I'll go back to it, Rolex 6.5.
You mean to have the case of the Air King and all that?
Not even, right? Like if they somehow made a design that was similar-ish to this design, the original design, ceramic bezel, just made it a little bit more mainstream, not as quirky, but updated obviously the technology, maybe made it a titanium case, right? I think this would be a knockout piece that's not a Submariner, that's not a GMT, that's not an Explorer 2. Even if you put a ceramic bezel on an Explorer 2, I can't see that being, as hyped as a GMT Master. So this is a bit off the beaten path, but this is what I think could happen. We got some super chats here, sorry. Raw on the shrink, $2. MBNF will be unobtainium during the next bull run. Look, MBNF already even had a very strong run at auction a few months back at Philips. So there seems to definitely be a huge market for the independents and some of those sought after pieces that you can't get. Swing Kangaroo, $2. Solid gold sub. Oh wait, never mind. We're on the shrink again, $2. Vintage mineral dial day 8s will be hot too. So yeah, we've been talking about that the last little bit, the stone dials and what have you. So this is my take, Professor. I think this may be a watch that will be updated by Rolex, could leverage titanium, could leverage a design change to be a little bit more retro if they do it, probably a lot more mainstream than just your Z Blue or other more quirkier pieces that they've produced, which I can't see everybody out there wanting in their collection. But if you make it a little bit more streamlined, it could definitely be a success. I mean, I'm trying to think of another brand that has anything, like you could think of the Speedmaster if they put a 321, in the move, which they have with the Ed White, but even then I don't think it has the oomph to actually get collectors to like flock to it. And
Yeah,
like selling over retail. Even the Ed White's like it kind of
I think Omega is a burrito brand.
Yeah, I just don't think they
Sorry
have.
to say, it is a burrito,
And look,
The
Lange tried a
Panerai
sports
is a prosciutto, and this one is a
watch.
burrito.
Yeah, Lange tried a sports watch and they didn't do very well. Outside of brand power, like you've got, and I don't want to use the, you can say the update of an Aquanaut could be also very hyped because the Aquanaut needs an update as well.
Patek, anything they produce, they will sell it even to blind and deaf people.
I tried to pick a watch that was a little bit more quirky, that's not that interesting right now, and go from there. We got super chats coming in here. We got Ron the Shrink again, $5. Professor, do you teach courses on white privilege and toxic masculinity? I don't think he does.
White privilege? What's a white privilege and toxic masculinity?
I don't know. Ron is asking for an educational look, but the professor only teaches us and only gives us proper education.
Well, I don't know anything, guys. You know more than I do. Real life with people who are in the real market.
Real life.
I paid my dues in the real market for 25 years. So It's time to
Um,
profess a little bit.
I don't know, JJ, if you're back or not. If you wanted to
Yeah,
handle
I'm
that.
here.
Hey
So
there.
I said the Milgauss, if they updated it, made it titanium, they made a ceramic bezel, a design that's a little bit more mainstream, could be definitely hyped. What do you think could be the next hype?
It's so hard to say what's going to be the next hype piece. I wish I knew because I would buy 10 of them, but
Well, Bear said earlier, he made it was pretty clear. He made a call. The Daytona. If he had the chance to buy 1, 2, or 3, he said he would buy
It's already
all
a
of
hype,
them.
though. It's already a hype watch. We pick one that's not hyped right now. What did they
Okay,
do?
yes, let's go for the unhyped. One, a sleeper watch, as it's called.
Yeah, what do you think could be a sleeper, JJ? Like, I'm trying to think of like I looked at Omega and I'm like, even if they did the 321 in the regular Speedmaster, like it'll take off for a bit, then it'll fizzle. Lange tried a sports watch with the Odysseus. Not really a
I hate
success.
that watch. I think it
Yeah,
was such
not
a
really a
forced.
success.
Yeah, it was a forced watch. I can't pick
It,
a
it was a
specific
forced
model.
watch. I completely agree with you, JJ.
Yeah,
It was a
it was
forced watch.
right. Yeah, cash grab for sure. I can't pick a specific model right now, but I can tell you what I see trending is a lot more dress piece, a lot more leather strap is starting. Like you're starting to see all celebs wearing them, and you know how the trickle down effect goes. I think you're going to start seeing people, especially people who are already in the hobby, like through COVID, you got an influx of new people into the hobby, right? So let's say 2, 3 years in, people's tastes change. Everybody wants a Rolex, right? You start there, or somewhere like that, right? And then people say, "Oh, wait a minute, do I really want to spend 40,000 on or 30,000 on a Daytona on the secondary when I could get this precious metal piece from like a special brand, and maybe put my money to better use, or the taste just gets more refined." I think you're going to start to see that trend more.
Yeah, like obviously hindsight's 2020. Chris says the Cartier relaunch of the Roadster. This is obviously the K shape, more of a tonneau K shape. Is not, they're not wildly popular as it is outside of maybe Richard Mille. Toyota Mo, $5. Thanks for the lunchtime watch talk. Really appreciate it. Next hype watch, 60th anniversary Bond Seamaster. But the Seamaster, the No Time to Die was, it had some hype, right? We're really talking about the next great thing. Like the Chronomet Bleu came out of nowhere, became very hyped. And I asked this question actually to Archie, was name a watch, that hasn't had a long history past maybe 20 years that is hyped today. And he was hard pressed to answer because we're talking about Submariners, Daytonas, GMTs, Nautilus, AP Royal Oak, but he couldn't pick up on the Chronomet Bleu, which was the watch. Prediction: new Rolex Chrono 1 hype GMT goes away.
What is a new Rolex Chrono 1?
I'm not sure.
What does it mean?
I'm not sure. New Rolex Chrono 1 GMT hype.
Like
GMT.
a Daytona, a new Daytona.
Yeah, like I don't even think the Crown can bring. Like JJ's talking about the dress watch. I don't even think the Crown, Rolex themselves can build a dress watch that's going to be hyped. Patek Philippe has very little hype on even some of their best dress pieces, like perpetual calendar. There's premiums on the salmon. These are more like a very small group of collectors that seek these. It's not the mainstream that's going to seek out perpetual calendar. It's just very pricey. So I don't think the Crown themselves could do it. I think that has to be more of a mainstream phase. You would have to really look at a brand that is a sleeper, that has the capability and has the power to actually go and move the market. Because if you think about Vacheron, I mean, a lot of their hype came from YouTube. I'm not going to say who it was, but we can all figure out who that is. Spruiking F. Vacheron.
The guy who has the whole collection in his safe.
Yeah, spruiking F. Vacheron, right? And then you slowly started to see them in the auction market and whatnot. But because it's such a small pool of watches, you can and this goes back to what Professor said about controlling a market. There's just a small supply of watches, and you're the big buyer. You can control that market and basically set the price. you know, so Vacheron's a strange one because I think it's artificially controlled, and the hype is being built like that, and the longevity of it is still to be seen. But yeah, guys, I think we're way over now. I've been going almost 3.5 hours. I gotta charge my headphones for the next one. I wanted to thank obviously JJ, the professor, Sod, Bear, Curly, Zoso, everybody who hopped on the panel today to help me out. We will be back in about 50 minutes with the Pontiff, who will be dressed, hopefully, and we'll be talking watches. I don't think we're going to go into drama. I don't think there's any drama. I haven't really caught up. Maybe there is. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure we're going to go through watches. I'll hopefully try to continue this discussion with Archie. We got a super chat here before I end. Swing Kangaroo 499. After all of us predictions of Rolex new upcoming anniversary year, and then Rolex announces Air King 2-tone. Yeah, it is a big anniversary year. There's going to be 2 anniversaries. There's a 70th anniversary for the Submariner, which was produced in 1953, and then the 60th anniversary of the Daytona, produced in 1963. So definitely going to be some pieces coming out for those anniversaries. But yeah, I mean, this is obviously a good hypothetical discussion. We like to have a good discussion around it. I like to talk about all different topics, engage the chat. If you guys like, the stream, thumbs it up. All the super chats were greatly appreciated. And we'll see you guys in 50 minutes.
Later, guys.
See ya.